Article 8, Part 2, and Article 9. It is a little more comfortable in here than last time we tackled 8. The air conditioning was out for those that weren't here. Yeah.
Judy was
And
told
so,
me.
looks like we've got everybody except Ron, and has the nerve to have an anniversary today.
Yes.
So here's a man with no priorities in my book. He should know better.
Aw.
So-
We'll give him a, excuse,
Absolutely. So, part 2 of Article 8. What page does that officially start on?
You don't have that
62.
copy.
Which one?
6-2.
Oh, I had it all set up.
Does anyone have an extra on that? I think I gave mine out back.
No, I don't think so. I think they had to do one for,
I started at 8.7, open uses.
No, we haven't done
No.
8.5 yet.
yeah, we saved adult entertainment for later. And also to look at the UDC for later too. We're starting with,
Okay.
starting with the adult entertainment. Look at this one, too.
Let's see.
Before we dive in here, I have a question for Paul. When I started reading this, I was like, really? And then I started looking into some of the case law around this and discovered that because of the First Amendment freedom of speech, the case law has said that a city cannot outright ban adult entertainment and bookstores. However, they can control it through zoning and license or use. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes. And the caveat to it is they
I
can't
guess.
create the zoning such that effectively bans it either.
Yeah,
I mean, that there has to be the possibility that it could exist. Like, you can't create a 1,000 foot separation or something, and there's no location in the city that would meet the 1,000 foot separation from whatever, from an intersection,
Okay, so yeah, I
and
guess
there's no,
just do the
I don't know.
rest of-
Okay.
I don't know that we have crossed that boundary in this, but
I think we're fine, Paul, from my reading.
yeah, good.
Yeah, so do 8.5. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't
No,
know.
no.
Somehow we must have put it with the other packet that we had, so
No problem.
before.
Yeah,
Because we both are the
we
same.
both start on 8.7.
No,
We were starting at
for
8.5.
Okay, that's fine.
That's where we
don't-
left
We
off.
don't
We did
deny
not-
you that you're right.
Right.
We're just
Okay.
trying to catch up. So I'm sorry, I was looking, sorry. Does any of that need to be updated? Any of the adult entertainment or all that stuff that's in there?
I have not.
No, I
in
don't
terms-
know. We've just kept it.
I had one
Oh.
comment on page 62. There's a random highlight in 2AI that can be removed.
Oh, yeah.
So either if somebody wants to write it down, because we have nothing
We're
right now.
printing
We're printing it right
8.5.
now.
Okay.
so
Should we start with 9 and come back to 8 then?
You could go to 8.7, come back.
Or 8.7, start on 8.7 and come back to 8.5?
Could you get them printed?
Or we could,
Yeah.
8.7 start.
Yeah, let's start at 8.7, we'll come back to 8.5.
Go back to 8.5.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
what page is 8.7 on?
It is 8-95.
And then you'll have 3.
Okay. Open uses?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can lean on mine.
And I don't think there were any online comments, were there? I think the last time online comments I saw were on 78.
70,
I
74.
think they were done with 8. But we have a bunch of them, I think, that you have in front of you.
Yep, for 9. Yep.
So,
Yeah, they had some comments on the sections we just skipped.
Yep.
70, 74, and 78.
Okay, so page 8-95,
yeah.
open uses. 8.7. Anybody have any comments or the highlighted you pointed out, Judy, the highlighted on B, agricultural operations? Is that the one you were pointing out?
No, I was back in page
Oh,
62.
okay.
And then we skipped forward.
I guess under B1, define, should that be bold or not?
Yeah, agricultural, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I
Okay.
don't see why it would be, so.
Yep, I'd agree. Anybody else have anything on this
So the
page?
only thing was, I think they're trying to define what that means, and then which begs the question, should it actually be in 13? And is it in 13? Because they try to say agricultural operations means, that's usually how you define a term. I'll try to channel my inner Samit. So we probably, because that is a definition, agricultural means, should that be in the definition?
Okay.
I would think so.
And that's usually the convention if you're defining a term as you bold it. So that's why I'm thinking also.
Okay,
So it should stay bolded or not?
because it's defined.
No, you would not bold it because you're going to put it in the definition.
Okay. All right.
So- But when you see something bolded, it's usually calling out, oh, I'm creating a definition.
All right, anybody else have anything on 95, page
I'll say,
95?
as you're looking at that, I mean, A1 is basically a definition of agriculture. B is a
Agricultural
definition of
operations.
agricultural operations. C is C1 is a definition of agricultural-related activities. All of those things, kind of, if our standard process is to put these things in the definition section, then all of those probably are in the same
So I think
category.
what it is, though, I think with the uses, putting the definitions in the use section.
I see that, Barnes got it,
Wait a minute,
composting's
she
got
did
it.
it's there for agriculture related, barn, composting,
winery.
all of the above.
So, I don't, this is really specific to my use case, but it's right for me. How about preservation?
Can't really hear you.
Preservation
Okay.
as a definition of agriculture. Like if we want to preserve ag land, maybe we're not using it in any of these ways yet. Is there a separate section for preservation that I'm,
No, I don't think so.
my
It's in-
wife really wants llamas, but I haven't bought into that yet. I'm intentionally not doing anything with the land that would prevent me from having llamas one day. So I'm preserving the farmland. And I'm kidding about llamas. She really likes llamas because they're cute.
So you're R2, though. That's why you're concerned.
Well, I'm ag,
You're ag, okay.
On
Because I know
Doris.
there's some parts of Doris that's
Right.
R2, right?
which is the only property, well, it's one of a couple of properties that are actually using the land as ag.
Right, and so there's a grandfathering clause, so that's why I was asking.
Okay.
But it's about you having AG1 by, since you are zoned AG1, you're allowed to do all these activities.
right.
By right. You don't
Right.
have to preserve anything. Like, if you didn't want to have llamas for another 10 years, you don't have to have it.
Okay.
But when you decide to do llamas or whatever else, you can do it because you're an AG1. So,
Okay.
So were you looking for us to say no llamas to help with the argument of your life?
Could insert a no llama clause.
The trade
In
no
number
llama.
eight, that would be really
This
helpful.
parcel can have no llamas.
yeah.
Because it kind of begs the question, and I go back to my Iowa heritage, where part of agricultural operations includes leaving your field fallow, meaning
right, yeah.
Yeah.
undone, but that's part of agriculture, just like
To let it
or
rest.
leaving it as a pasture, so that's part of operations, but so it's kind of a non-use use?
I mean, you don't have to use it, just like most subdivisions are zoned AG1, but they're platted subdivisions,
You
but
cannot use property in any district in the city.
Okay, so we're covered there.
Say that again.
You can not use property in any district in the city. You're not violating,
If you don't use it
you
as
don't
intended.
use it.
Right.
Because the problem is once you start using it,
Then
then
there's
it's regulated.
Okay.
A certain way.
So I think that umbrella covers us even for agricultural. If it's not in use, it doesn't affect it.
Okay.
Non-use, yeah, the non-use clause.
okay.
So your wife can have llamas and anything else except for exotic animals.
So I'll call her and tell her that, okay?
Are llamas
Go
not
for you.
exotic? I guess
Yeah, if
technically.
you want to have exotic animals, you have to get a use permit, but other than that, you're good.
Okay.
Senate Bill 7995, page 95.
Well, it's kind of the same idea under agricultural related activities. There's a definition there.
Right, because there's a use permit for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's back to the, do we also move that? Is that better served to be in the definitions or here?
I mean, I think he set everything up under the use to be the definitions within the use
Oh, okay.
article. So that way you didn't have to go back and forth.
Okay.
But I'm double checking on that right
Yeah.
now.
If you could just ask him if on convention, because I'm okay if this is the only place it's used in the entire UDC.
Right, so
Any place else, it needs to be in 13.
so AG. So it doesn't have all it does in the zone, in the definition section, it has all agricultural district, but it doesn't have all the agricultural operations or
Related
agriculture
activities.
related activities. So that's why he's keeping it separate in the use section in Article 8. So everything's together. The use chart, the use permits and the definitions are all together.
To that point, which I was going to get to on page 897, it says under use standards, all operations must maintain a minimum setback of 100 feet. Well, how do we define operations?
So are you under farm winery, George Farm on 87?
No, under.
Technically, that's compost.
Isn't there composting,
I
right?
was just, I jumped there only because of we were saying
Okay.
operation.
Composting, okay.
So how does,
I mean, I think that's,
Well,
required.
well, let's wrap up are we fine with the definitions? and the
Operations
use?
must maintain.
Are we
I
fine
am
with
as
the-
long as they're not used elsewhere in the
Right, and
entire
there was,
13 chapters.
so far I haven't seen that. So,
Okay.
all operations, so anything that's involved with the composting has to be 100 feet away. So any activity that's involved has to have that. Yep. So, yeah. And I would also would think that would include the parking associated with it. Like if you were going to need to park, that it's basically 100-foot setback, but it also talks about the minimum zoning buffers required are 50 feet along a side lot line and 100 feet along the rear. So even along the sides, you'd have a 100-foot setback, but then you'd have a 50-foot buffer and then a 100-foot buffer in the rear.
okay,
So,
well, you hit the key that I was looking for on
yeah, yeah.
parking. One specific reason.
Okay,
Sorry that I jumped.
Oh, no, you're good.
Fred, you're way ahead of us.
Operations.
So we're done with 95, 96, anything on 96, anybody? Okay, 97 along with Fred's, anybody have any questions or comments on 97? Okay. And then the figures that are gonna be like, figure under farm winery, What, just out of curiosity, what is that figure, 871-F?
So what it is,
Or
it's
not?
the classification of different roads.
Okay,
I
all
think
right.
when we created the use permit, you all wanted to have it inserted, so yeah.
That'll work,
Yep.
thanks. Okay, what about 98?
Again, probably no bold on
Yeah, that
design.
90, that
Before
design.
you leave, 97, just happening to read that same paragraph, says curb cut access may not be allowed. Is not allowed, or
Yeah,
it depends?
So what, the permitted curb cut access must be from an Ontario?
Well, if that's what it's meant to say. This F2B,
Oh, you're on the farm winery.
yeah.
the 97
Curb cut
blue.
access may not be allowed from a local road shown in figure.
Yeah, just the term may not be allowed. I'm not sure if that means it's not allowed.
Well, I think he was changing, it might have been shall, and then he changed it to may not. I don't know.
But what do you want it to? Do you want them to not have access from a
Correct.
local road?
Correct.
Then saying shall needs to
Not.
stay.
Let me just double check on what it is right now.
Okay. So back on 98, and we got the design bolding, anything else? Was I highlighted for any reason on 98? Just the I is highlighted. I think it's just might be carryover from highlighting somewhere else. Not sure if that's something we should be addressing, or is that just,
I think it's
Formatting.
like, I think this just tends to have if it's a defined term, they're occasionally capitalizing it. Design is not a bolded word. I mean to bold it, so I don't think it should be bold.
you're asking, should it be capitalized?
No, it should not be bold nor capitalized.
Which one? I'm sorry, I'm looking.
Design.
Yeah.
But again, there's nothing that,
I'm back on 97. Things catching my eye on F2D. Needs to be a period at the end of that sentence.
Got that? I'm looking at this thing.
I've turned and put page 97 down.
Yeah, so what I'm looking up the original ordinance when we created the use permit for farm wineries, and we had shall not be allowed, so. Yeah. Okay.
Might have been a global sort of thing. that
Yeah.
didn't- Or a global and then make sure, and that one just slipped through.
Okay.
And then there was concern on 98 about the highlight of I.
yeah, is that for our attention for anything, or is that just?
I
the
don't
format?
know. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it was just,
Okay, just want to be sure if there was something there, we'd catch it.
Likewise, on the top of page 99 in K, may not exceed, is that another shall that got flipped to may?
Sounds like it. Where is it?
oh. Tasting room may not exceed. Shall, it's supposed to be shall.
That one's not as bad, but
On C, parking, I'm being off here, but parking areas must be screened from roads and adjacent properties. Fine screened.
You can't see it from the roads
So it,
or adjacent properties. So whatever is appropriate to create the screening, there could already be some vegetation, some trees, and maybe you just need to add more
No,
vegetation.
no, back up. You said, the key word was trees or,
Could fencing be a screen?
It could be, but I mean, but we don't allow that. Not
no, I agree, but is that clear enough?
well, that's what we
you
created
and I-
like
but
a year
if
ago.
If it's internal, Don't you allow privacy fences as long as you can't see them from the road?
That's true, right,
So
but not
because it-
along the street, but yeah.
Because you could have a back-to-back that
Right,
has a
yeah, you
privacy
could have
screen.
that. You could put up an opaque fence for the adjacent property owner.
But if you're coming off a road
You can't.
for somebody to park and you have just a fence, then it's
It's not screened,
not screened.
right? So it would probably have to be some sort of vegetation or a change in the
The
elevation.
location that I brought my attention to would be then grandfathered based on this.
You're talking about the existing one?
Pardon?
What are you talking, I mean,
No, it's a farm.
oh, well, this is just for a winery, a farm winery,
So
not a
now we're
farm.
up to rural or agricultural
Rural.
event facility,
Yeah.
Under
H.
H, C parking.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm back at the
Okay.
winery, okay, H, yep. Parking areas must be screened from roads and adjacent, right. Okay, so we just didn't want to get into the specifics. It'll be a case-by-case basis of how it needed to be screened.
The one that I'm looking at is basically just parking and fence along the highway.
Well, either, I mean, I can't remember if that particular case had a concurrent variance or not. I'd have to look it up. So it wouldn't have been grandfathered because that wouldn't exist without this use permit.
Okay.
You're talking about Little River Farms?
No,
Where is it located?
painted.
Okay, so that's not,
It's a farm winery.
they ended up
Correct.
pulling that. So it's under a farm winery and the farm winery wasn't
So it
created till after
overrides
that.
that.
So that is grandfathered if you're talking about Painted Horse.
Okay. So anything in winery would be,
Anything in a new winery.
yeah,
Right.
This code was put in
right.
after
after,
Painted
yeah.
Horse. Okay.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
If I remember right.
Yeah, it was.
I couldn't remember. They had multiple requests.
Well, I
Most of them got withdrawn, but I think the farm winery was
Well, it's
done
just- it's
under,
right- Very obvious is what I was saying. As you
Yeah.
go around the roundabout, I mean, there's the parking. So that's why I questioned it.
but they had, I'd have to look at the case to see exactly what was requested and what was ended up, because they dropped a bunch of stuff. So,
And they got some variances, I think, on
Right,
the
yeah.
parking too.
okay.
All right, so we're still on, we're on
98, the figure here that shows the map,
Mhm.
it's in the middle of a section, but it's on it's on a page. Like I guess I would recommend trying to move it to the page in front.
Where
It's
it,
connected to the figure.
yeah,
Or at the end of a complete section, it would make sense that it was there.
right.
But since they have it in the middle, maybe. I'm sure that's just a word flow.
Yeah.
Okay. So 99, anything else on 99 with the rural agricultural event facility?
Want to do H2B, may to shall?
So
Bottom
this is
left.
so what he was saying was that he was changing I'm surprised we haven't seen it, or maybe it's just because we're in the use section, that he was
Still
changing
didn't say.
basically all the shalls
Or,
to may, thinking it was, well, may is not the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but it may just be a global thing that every time permitted may not be allowed. Let me look up that one, rural or.
Paul doesn't like
agricultural.
ambiguity.
well,
Makes
we
for
gotta
more
be-
work for me, but at the moment, I'm okay with
Well, you don't like us. That's okay.
You guys can keep on going. I'm just gonna look this up.
So
This is an old
on
one.
the top of 8-99 under plant nursery, at the end of one defined, the quote is bolded and it should not be. At the end quote, at the end of the paragraph.
Leftover formatting thing.
Good eyes.
Yeah. Fact, the curb cut access should be shall. That's what it is on the.
All right, do we get the quotation mark unbolding?
Yes, I've got that.
Okay,
This
great.
quotation mark unbolded.
No.
All right. 100.
Somebody's
Anybody?
just dying to get in here, huh?
Yeah,
So sad.
we're popular, what can I say? So 99, anybody have anything on 99? Going once? All right. 101.
So the only thing on 100 is C is kind of an orphan, the title.
Yeah. and so move it
Normally, we
down.
would keep that with the following, so that's a page break issue. And on 101, the 5 itself does not need to be bolded, and the link for 9.4 should just be at 9.4.
The hyperlink.
Yeah, the hyperlink.
Yeah. Remove it, you think? Yeah.
Is there a difference on 101? It's a minimum 75-foot setback, okay.
All right, are we done with 101? Pretty good on that? Review standards header over there. 102. CUP district. Accessory uses, do we still have CUP districts?
Well, you can't get new ones, but there's existing
Okay,
ones,
so-
so we still
okay.
have to keep it in there, yeah.
Okay.
Is one.
So, question on 8.83A. Don't we allow storage facilities in OI and then, or is OI, OI does not, I'm thinking of T.
It's office institutional OI.
And it's not T. Okay, never mind, I'm good. Do we have any OI?
We have a little bit, not very much.
Is
So,
that like the collab is OI? Office?
right.
Okay.
mhm, That's there. And then we have OI where, over there at the lower part of Bethany Bend at Morris, that Montessori school is
Cool.
zoned O and I.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we don't have a lot, but we have a little bit.
On 3, this won't surprise you, but I'd like to know what an accessory drugstore is.
On 4, on,
Well,
it,
it says would that,
So I think a lot of times
How would you-
this was, this O and I comes from kind of you have to think about this came from Fulton County and they had Sandy Springs and everywhere. So if you think about a big office building, there could be accessory retail shops inside the office building. So that's where that comes from,
Yeah.
that.
so that means that I couldn't sell lounge chairs.
Or well, I guess a Band-Aid would be a medicinal supply, but you can't sell sodas or
Well, I had
water.
a problem with the whole thing, so
Yeah.
naturally.
Yeah, so all that stuff has to do with kind of being able to service the big office buildings.
Yeah. I don't know of a single drugstore that doesn't sell something other than medicinal supplies. They
Can't be.
sell soda, they sell
Right.
gum. cigarettes for that matter, but yeah.
Thank you for that support.
Yeah.
Just doesn't, to me, mean, I don't know how you're gonna define.
Well, I think part of that though is like over, I'm thinking about like the north side offices off of off of Old Milton at 400. They have pharmacies inside there.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's, again, kind of the thought process of this was just to sell drugs that are associated with medical offices.
Yeah.
So,
It might be one to put on that list to say, let's
Yeah,
look at that and see
going
if it makes
forward.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, given that it's two whole parcels in all of Milton, it may not be. an
I
issue.
know, yeah, I know, yeah.
'Cause I think we'd have a real problem enforcing that particular
Well, I just, we
comment.
don't, so all the
It's
buildings.
a big deal, but.
Yeah. But that's where it comes from, is that
Yeah.
kind of thought process of large office buildings and their,
So what's Deerfield zoned as?
well, now it's form-based code, but it originally was O and I,
O&I,
yeah.
okay.
So they would have had like some availability to have some of that.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So what's the, on Highway 9, the HVAC company that's,
HVAC, well, that's
Or is
another,
that O&I?
it's a T5, but it was originally a C1 or O and I can't remember, so yeah. Are you talking about the one closer to Crooked Creek, or you mean the
yeah, the one that's actually, no, oh, it's,
across from the daycare?
yeah.
Okay, no, that was zoned originally M1 because it was heavy. It's not anymore.
Right.
But it's
industrial.
grandfathered in. So that, and then the landscaping company with all the materials on the right side, the same thing with that. So once they go out of business for more than a year, or they don't sell to a similar service, then they're gone. So,
Well, he'd been talking about selling his property for a while.
yeah.
Forever.
All right. Brett, are you comfortable with what's in here, or,
I think,
I guess put it on the list for,
yeah, for
Yeah,
future
I think we
consideration?
should.
Okay.
On 8.8.3B, to the following colon, not period.
eight, 3.
Take a quick Zumba break and join the Zumba
Oh,
of the Green.
Hearing this music, come on, what's going on?
We'll take a quick Zumba.
Just keep your toes tapping.
All right,
so on
So-
to 8.
are we up to 103 now?
Yep.
103.
All right, anybody have comments or questions on 103? Nope, good. 104.
just assumed that most of that was proper.
And again, under antennas may not be lighted. Should that just be should not be? I mean, is that another one, shall not? Or,
That's probably okay.
okay,
It may not be allowed that makes it sound like we're deciding whether or not to allow
Yeah.
it.
Which section was that again? B?
Or tennis.
B2IV,
Oh, little 4 antenna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. We have any on antennas over 90 feet or on page 105?
105, you have the same thing on 4,
May not.
main.
well, be careful here because now we're talking about antennas over 90 feet. And some of those have to have a light on the top so that people airplanes don't crash into them. So I think this idea was like you're not uplighting them or accentuating them, but some tall antennas, I'm thinking cell phones have to have a red light on the tops to say, don't hit me.
It's FCC rule.
So can we even say they may not be lighted? Do they have to be lighted at 90 feet? Do we know that?
That's a.
Well, this could be
FAR.
exceed.
In FCC.
Well,
It's the feds.
I don't know if you want to say they may not even,
I would, if there's not somewhere, I would like a provision that says, notwithstanding the following, any antenna must comply with all state and federal regulations in addition to the foregoing, and any conflict will be resolved in favor of.
I think that'd be wise.
Yeah,
I do too.
because these are supposed to be amateur radio antennas, but I think if they're, I think 90, my gut says 90 feet needs a light on the top.
That's how the 90 came in there, so that.
Yeah, 'cause we've got a few of those restrictions in here, but I do agree with Paul. I'm sure the federal and state guidelines are much more stringent. And I think we should defer to those if we can work that in here somehow. I think it gets us off the hook.
We need to finalize that language again, or is that
What Paul said.
notwithstanding the
Yeah.
following?
If he can't come up with that paragraph, he can shoot me an email and I
Okay.
can come up with something.
Okay.
Are there any other areas that we should have those types of, that type of
Reference.
paragraph? Let's keep that in mind as we're looking through this, because I think
Yeah.
that's a good advice.
Okay, I've got that.
Because even like farm wineries, which we define in here, we just defer to a lot of the state code for farm wineries, right? We need to put that, do we need to reference that in here, like under state farm wineries? Or is it just assumed, or, again, anything that we can,
If I'm recalling here, we refer to chapter 4 of the code,
Right.
and chapter 4 refers to the state code.
Yeah.
okay. Okay. That's all. So, up to car wash,
Accessory.
nothing there, drive-through.
So here, so on 8.8.10, this is a car wash accessory as opposed to just a car wash that's mainly a car wash?
So an accessory is like if a gas station
Gas
has
station.
a drive-through, it's an accessory to
Chevron.
the gas station.
Like the Chevron.
Okay,
Okay.
drive-through. Do we have to update on drive-throughs now that Chick-fil-A's putting in the dual drive-throughs and the,
Before we leave car wash accessory, it says must be located inside a parking garage.
So that's under the MIX mixed use?
Just in, so
I would think
only
it
in
would
the
be at
MIX
O and I
district.
though, yeah.
If that's only supposed to be, if it's located in the MIX.
MIX.
I didn't pick up that that was only in the MIX district. Does it have to be in a parking garage?
I would think it's in some of even the T zones that have parking, because I know a lot of folks, like if you've got an office building, a lot of times people will set up a detail in the parking garage in the back.
Right.
And so
that's
that would
what-
apply to all the Ts too, because that's where the office parking garages are.
Right. Well, I mean, he's just doing with what is existing,
Yeah.
and I know,
Add it to the list. We should look at that for T,
okay,
future consideration.
T, et cetera.
right.
That if this provision is as written, limited to the MIX district, I'd like to say in the MIX district, comma, the use, because I didn't pick up on that. That's the problem with trying to use the title as part of the regulation.
Right. That's what I'm assuming what that is. That's when I saw that. That's what
Yeah,
I,
because there are a lot of office buildings, because you just leave your car and come back and it's all detailed by the time you go home.
right.
It's a very common service in parking garages. And most of our office parking garages are in T, not mix.
Right, no, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that that's just another list item
Yeah,
on the
list
list.
item.
Okay.
Okay, drive-throughs. What is the 5-acre road zone?
So that is just, if you, north of Bethany Bend on the left, before you get to Crooked Creek, there's a street called 5 Acre.
Okay,
And there was a negotiated settlement between the residents and when we were doing the, right before we did form-based code, but we did a plan. So they have very specific development standards for those. There's 4 parcels that front on Highway 9.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they have very specific requirements that are different than anywhere else in form-based code, so. But you can see it's never been developed either, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And isn't it
It's-
called
it's
5 Acre
difficult.
Road because most of the,
They're all 5 acres, yeah. So part of the problem is, just FYI, is that the sanitary, and they're permitted to hook up to sewer, sanitary sewer, but the closest sewer is across on the other side of 9, and it's very, very, very expensive to bore under and extend unless the 4th parcel closer to Crooked Creek would develop first, and they'd bring it down from Crooked Creek. So it's very complicated.
Hmm. Okay.
all right. So we're on 106, greenhouse non-commercial.
In B, it says a non-commercial greenhouse are limited in size.
is it, many of these greenhouses now are not glass. They're
The heavy plastic
heavy
ones, right?
plastic. And this says a glass accessory building, but most of them are
Yeah, the
heavy plastic.
Right.
Very few people use glass anymore.
Right.
Now they're using solar.
So do we want to, is that something we have to put on the list, or do we just strike glass?
I mean,
I would say strike glass.
strike glass, yeah.
Right.
Good.
Because I could put one in my backyard and put my orchids in it,
Right.
and it wouldn't even be clear plastic, because
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Guest house.
And I'm just going back on this greenhouse, non-commercial. So,
That's like
because
you
it
in your
doesn't
backyard.
say a particular zone, does that mean it's anywhere in Milton, any zone, you could do this?
So there's another, I think it's in the, it would
In the
be in that
table?
big chart, it should be, but it would be residential. I'd have to see what it is.
The way this is, it would just mean if it's allowed somewhere else by some other provision, then you have to apply these provisions no matter where it is.
Okay.
So we're starting glass.
Correct.
Make sure you would put an accessory building when you strike glass.
Well, and I'm trying to think, like, could someone build a wooden structure and claim it to be greenhouse?
Under this definition, potentially,
So should
then they'd have to
we-
get a use
do we
permit for
care?
it.
We say semi-transparent, or do we care if it's transparent or semi-transparent?
That's a practical question. I don't.
If it's a metal structure, does that matter? I don't know if it qualifies.
I
for
can see
greenhouse.
somebody too building something and then putting grow lights in it.
Right. That's exactly
Something they might prefer not to be transparent.
right. That's what I'm wondering, if that's why it was said glass to begin
That's on the
with.
drug dealer section.
Oh, for opium, that kind of stuff.
Because I know people who like bring their fruit tree, they have like a lemon tree and they bring it inside, and then, but it doesn't get enough light. So they put grow lights on it, even though it's in
pink
their
and
living
purple.
room.
Y'all seen those pink and purple lights?
So they, I could see somebody having a shed that they
Yeah,
bring that in, put a little heat source in there and
right.
Do we care?
light it up. Well, I wouldn't, well, if it was glass and you put the grow lights in it, you're gonna see the glowing orb in the person's backyard.
But you wouldn't need it.
Anyhow.
That's what you need.
Well, no, you need it because you need the extended hours in the winter.
Yeah.
So generally, they're only running it till like 10 at night. They're trying to get 12 hours of daylight on it.
Open a
So
can
I
of
don't
worms.
think it, in some ways, I'd rather it not be glass because then you don't see inside in whatever mess it is. But, so I don't have a problem with it not being glass.
Why don't we just
But
leave it
then-
the way it is without the glass and accessory building? And
So
then,
Paul just pointed out. if
we
you
we haven't really had issues with accessory,
Yeah.
non-commercial.
Paul just pointed out if you strike glass, it has to be "an" rather than "a."
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul, for your grammar.
Okay. Anything else under
No, that's
guest
great.
houses on this?
Greenhouse,
Did we get that grammar in
do a residential
B?
use.
That's what
We were on B, it should be is instead of
Yeah.
are.
Interesting. A guest house you cannot charge rent for, huh? Just the sentence under definition.
Oh, right, of guest house, you can't,
Yeah.
sorry, you can't
So
charge
work on the
rent to your
property.
son if he's in, living guest house.
And it's per lot, so a lot could have the one.
You only have
I'm
one guest.
thinking of one particular thing we had that was quite confusing when I did the census. And it was confusing because they really only had 3, but there were 5 on the census and we had to go and clarify, but he had guest above the detached garage. Next to it was a guest house for the caretaker. And then down the road, which I think was another lot, was another guest house. But if he didn't use the facilities above the garage, but if he had, and it was on the same lot as the guest house next door, he couldn't do that because that's 2 guest house on one.
Lot, right, you
Lot.
couldn't do that, yeah.
Okay. I think he's okay because the guest house above the garage was not a guest house.
Right, nobody was occupying
Nobody
it.
was living there.
Okay.
And the idea here is a guest house is that long-term stay or is that,
It doesn't really say that, but it could be long-term stay.
Right.
yeah, well, in many cases around here, a lot of these guest houses where they have worker, like the land manager or whatever, it is long-term, but the implications would be, it doesn't matter if they stay 1 night or 365, it's a guest house. Correct, the way you defined it?
Yeah, that there's no stay.
It doesn't really define
Qualifications.
the length, but
Okay.
Does VRBO or that type of,
we don't allow, yes.
Right. But that'd be
So
paid
it's,
for.
yeah.
That'd-
So
that'd be-
short-term rentals, we don't permit, but we don't say that directly. We say it through, there's another section that talks about home occupation. And
It's coming up
so
next.
under home occupation, it says not to allow uses that are like hotels or motels, i.e. hotels, motels are for less than 30 days, staying.
so
And
anywhere in Milton, any house?
And now, I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying that
They're not
if we
allowed.
get a complaint about them, then we'll deal with it. And if somebody calls me and says, can I do VRBO or whatever on short term, I say no. So, yeah.
Okay.
So here's another thing on this guest house, and I think we get a lot, but more the BZA gets a lot of variances on the guest house being in the rear, because often they had the older building in the front, they built the nice
Right.
building in the back. But I'm thinking about this particular property the property was like 15 acres, and it's like, and the house was kind of in the middle of it. And you kind of come up to the house and it's like, where's the front? Is the front over there? Is the front over, So I would have a hard time because it was kind of in the middle saying, where's the rear of the house?
So when they say it has to be in the rear, so what we do is we take, no matter where the house sits, then we draw a line adjacent or along the front. Doesn't even have to be the front of the house,
The road,
but
the road
it
front.
faces the road, and you put a line, and then it has to be behind that.
So the front plane of the
Yeah,
house.
thank you, the front plane of
So
the
the front
house.
plane of the house has to be behind the front plane. Now, the front door may be on the other side. but
Yeah, we don't care
it's
which
the
direction
front
it is.
in its relationship to the front.
Well, and this would be hard to define because this person also had like a 200-foot private driveway. Where's the front, where's,
Right.
which road? Pick one, because he fronted
Yeah.
2 roads.
We had
It's
this-
kind of like
rules for that
between
too?
Doris and, it was between Doris and New Providence, and, it's kind of like he's back in there, in the middle of nowhere. And it was like, but it's, I'm thinking about his guest house, which should be legitimate, but I don't know how you just define where his front is.
Mm.
Because he's kind of in the middle of everything.
That's down that little dirt road. that
Yeah,
goes
the
back
little
there
dirt
on-
road, yeah, goes way back.
Robin, didn't we have the same discussion some time ago on Flag Lot, trying to figure out where the front was on a house? That came up.
Right,
that
so
we
it's
had
the
to
most parallel
Do
to
the
the front.
discussion of where the road was and all this to determine what the front was.
It doesn't matter which way your house is positioned, it's the geometry of the shape of the lot. So,
Yeah.
Right, well, we're not going to solve
The
that.
good news is this nice man is grandfathered, but it was like, I'd sit
But
there
it's a
going,
good
I
point.
wouldn't know how you ever figure out where his guest house is allowed, because, yeah.
The whole road is weird.
Pardon?
The whole road is weird.
That road is weird.
Okay. Home occupation. Look at
yes,
task
oh,
manager.
speak of the devil,
We're
yes,
doing good.
right there.
Use
In B5, where it says the following uses are excluded, colon, and then it lists all those, do we need semicolons after every one of those?
We haven't been. The only reason there's a semicolon is you have the convention of or, but if
Right.
you strike the semicolon and or,
I don't know that there's no legal preference. I don't know that it's consistent throughout the
Use
whole
commas.
UDC.
Right.
sometimes they put periods, sometimes they
Yeah.
don't. You should be consistent.
Okay.
Here.
But I don't think we've ever seen the convention has not been semicolon so far.
I got a question on the home occupation B1. Only occupants of the dwelling may work on the premises in connection with a home occupation. That make sense to everybody else?
Say that again?
Yes?
Only occupants of the dwelling may work on the premises in
Right,
connection
so
with.
that's something
Yeah,
that we're
if-
gonna look at. That's what it is right now. The intent is the people who, live there are the ones who work there. But we've had occasions where, if they have one worker, do we really have a problem with that? So, we're gonna be looking at maybe amending this section
Okay.
as it relates to business license and home occupation and all that.
Okay.
Because if I'm remembering, the business license allows you to have one worker. and still be a home-based business.
Yeah, I don't know about because we call it an occupational tax license.
Right, yes.
And so I don't know what that says. I just know what this says. And I know that there's some discrepancy. So we're going
Yeah.
to be working on that.
Okay,
Because sometimes people will have, I work at home and
Yeah, and
somebody
like,
comes
do
in
we
4
really
hours
care
a
if they
day
have-
and helps do filing or whatever.
Yeah.
okay. So anybody else have anything under the home occupation?
And I'm going to back up too, is if you really read that, only occupants of the dwelling may work on the premises in connection with a home occupation. I'm sorry, I have a cleaning crew that comes in. Is that not allowed?
No, they don't live there. That was my question.
Right,
Only occupants may work there. Well,
yeah, that's, yeah, you've
But
got
it's-
I have plumbers that
contractors,
come in, I
plumbers,
have,
Home occupation.
but in connection
HVAC.
with the
Yeah.
home occupation.
oh, because it's related to the use of it as a business, okay.
Then I think Paul's favorite on this one is going to be B5H. Any other occupation found incompatible with the intent of this UDC? That ambiguous at
Beauty is
all?
in the eye of the beholder?
Well, so originally it had, let's see. What is it? Taxi services.
At least it says the intent of the UDC. Theoretically, one can say there is an absolute list of options that are incompatible with the intent of this UDC. Just a matter of, we didn't put them all out, but
Okay,
the
Right.
director will
Yeah,
compare his known list to this provision. But you're right, I don't like it.
I mean, if you're good leaving it, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So now scooting right along to 107.
Sorry.
Forget it.
No home occupation may, number 7 at the top, may generate traffic, sound, smell, vibration, light, or dust that is offensive. They
Yeah.
can't create traffic?
That is
It's
offensive.
offensive.
Yeah, beauty is in the eye. In other words, can't do it if your neighbors complain.
Okay,
And a reasonable person would find it offensive.
okay. Anything else under this that needs our attention?
Yeah, so I think that listing, I guess we have to just get the consistent methodology for
Oh, yeah.
lists. 'Cause it's
Semicolon,
different. Yeah,
period.
Yeah,
I will note that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 provisions that start out with family daycare homes.
right.
Probably could be combined into one,
Like a
11,
s-
A, B, C, D.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then you might want to put the preface under, the exception under 8 with the rest of that too.
No. Like to get rid of that part? No. What did you?
So do we have any rules that,
When
let's
you
say
put
somebody has a
the
commercial vehicle,
Oh, okay.
somebody runs a business out of their home, they have a commercial vehicle. Can it be parked outside? Or does it need to be, like, I think Alpharetta requires you gotta garage it.
I have to look it up to see. I think that, you can't have a certain tonnage of a truck, but if you just have a F-150 work truck, we're not going to say you can't park it in your driveway, but if
Okay.
but I have to look to see what it is.
I think some of them have like advertising on them,
Like
they,
vans and-
like
and,
plumbing,
and,
HVAC,
pardon?
like plumbers, HVAC.
But I think in the sign ordinance, we allow that to happen because we talked about that.
They can park their vehicles with our
Right,
signage
yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
Whether that's the plumbing truck or a
Right,
mobile dog grooming or a,
Adult entertainment bus.
right. So
Robin, that came up in our subdivision, the house, which is on Hopewell Road, first one in the subdivision, backs up to a home and parking garage practically without a garage. And I came to you and they parked their 3 trucks, but none have advertising. And basically you were saying, you know, the person living complaining just gonna have to screen it because they were allowed to
Right, there's also,
park there.
there, I mean, there is a limit to the number of, technically, there's a limit to the number of cars you can have parked in front of your house, so
Well, it's on the side.
on the side. I,
Oh, I remember it
Yeah.
well because they were furious.
Is that a covenant controlled?
Pardon?
Is it covenant controlled?
Most of those are
Yeah, like
controlled by the HOA.
Yeah,
I
we
know
don't,
if
we don't
they're-
allow it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's
no.
in our covenants.
If they're next door to it.
The house is on
Oh.
Hopewell. The house complaining is in the HOA.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah,
City thing.
that's,
But you
right,
used the point that none of it has advertising, so. And I don't know if we talked about the number.
I mean, I don't remember it
But I remember
specifically, but we've had
Homeowner
complaints about people
association.
who've parked two cars in front of their house. Was it 2 or 3 there on Bethany?
Back to the
Yes.
front.
This is a little over the top, but.
Robin,
kind of,
you had complaints about,
So we've had situations where neighbors complain there's too many cars in front of the next door neighbor's house. And that the ordinance on off-street parking does limit the number of vehicles that can be parked in front of the house. I believe it's 2. I'll have to look it up.
because I think there's an ordinance says you can have 4 cars outside your garage on the lot, but it doesn't say how many you can also then park on the street.
I don't know anything about the street. I'm just talking about what's in front of the
Yeah,
house.
it's
So
4. It's
Parking on
4.
the
I was reading it
on
somewhere.
the street.
It's
4,
on the
4,
side.
yeah.
I-
Oh, 4 that can be parked like in your driveway.
let's see.
Okay.
I could swear it's 2, but let me look. Only because it
It is
seems a
4. I
bit.
just was reading.
Yeah.
Single-family districts. Within single-family
Okay,
district and
circle back
AG1
and
district utilized for single-family dwelling, the parking or storage of vehicles shall be prohibited except on parking spaces as defined in 64-1. Off-site location of required parking spaces are prohibited. Unenclosed parking spaces may occupy a side yard and no more than 50% of a required rear yard. A maximum of 2 spaces may be permitted adjoining the entrance to a front entry garage or carport, or adjoining the end of a driveway whenever no garage or carport exists. Garage and carport spaces may count toward the minimum required spaces. So this, it's saying 2.
Well, it's 2 that's up by the garage, but there's someplace else that says you can have 4 outside.
I was gonna say, because I mean,
Saw 4.
this one definitely has 4.
So the visible storage or parking of more than 4 vehicles at a single family
There it is.
Thank you.
residence shall be unlawful.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right.
Okay,
Visible parking of
I
4.
knew we'd been there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you couldn't put more than, well, it said
4
2.
outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's where you put them. It's because there's that 2, when I looked at it, is like, you can put 2 up by the garage, but like we have a lot of curved driveways. And so when you have some big families and you have lots of drivers, you have lots
No,
of
I know,
cars.
yeah.
But this happens to be on
yeah.
Hopewell Road, so there's no front parking.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so moving along, keeping exotic or wild animals and trade llamas are not included in this section? Just pointing that out.
Notice coyotes are, and they're included, but they seem to be
Um,
around.
So, any questions or comments on that?
Well, if we keep getting bears, somebody may want to keep them.
Or they just might stay.
Hippopotamuses? Yikes. Okay,
Is it like a
we're
zoo?
thorough. We are thorough.
We're going to
I
the
thought, I
zoo.
thought opossums was interesting because I know people that have them for pets.
What?
Pets, possums?
Yeah, kangaroos and opossums must be in the same
Oh,
family.
Marsupial.
Marsupial, yeah.
That's my question.
All right, anything else on the exotic animals front section, definitions? All right, let's move right along. B, permits and licenses required. I think this is where we put in a lot of Paul's good stuff as far as Department of Agriculture and
Right.
all there. Use standards, anything on there?
So is this, so they can get a use permit, for example, if they wanted to, if they were a rehab facility? Like if they want to, if they had a state license to rehab possums, they'd be okay?
Where is it?
I think it says for rehab.
Yeah, so they would need it, yeah. If
They, but they
rehab,
could get it if they were licensed,
If
a
they had
licensed
10, right,
rehabber.
right.
Yeah, okay.
They'd have to have 10 acres.
Okay,
C2, that
Thank
should, that
you.
may not be, shall not.
so anything else on the use standards for this on page 108? Okay. 109, keeping of horses.
The more the merrier.
Required.
Any questions or comments on that?
There's no limit on the number.
I
Yeah,
just saw that, no limit.
A little scary.
No limit instead of limited.
Must be space at least. The next paragraph.
Yep. mhm.
is it limited by size or area that you have? Is there any, does it have
No.
like, no limitations placed on it that way?
I
Yep,
think it's a good
we don't have
point.
it. So there's always
One
been a
per acre.
confusion that there's a section that talks about 1 horse per
Acre.
acre fence, but that is in reference to residential districts, not to AG1.
Okay, because that's listed under 2 on this page, use standards, keeping
Right,
horses,
exactly.
2A.
So if you were an R2, technically, you could only have 1 horse per fenced acre.
So
That,
do we define T2 as an agricultural district? I think agricultural district is defined, because it wasn't T2, you know, the,
Yeah, it was kind
the
of like a,
the Deerfield
what's
equivalent of
permitted
AG1?
well, she's checking that be at will be picked up.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, okay. I hadn't got to ask that question yet.
The very clear definition of agricultural district in the definitions.
it just, actually, I did look at it
An
and
agricultural zoning district.
it just says agricultural district. Oh, yeah, you just said it, an agricultural zoning district.
Yeah, I think we need to rewrite that.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that when we get to that chapter.
And clarify if it means T2 or not.
So let me, looking table.
I think a lot of horse owners will tell you, for the care and upkeep of the horses, you should have, but we're defining this as equine, and like a miniature horse doesn't need as much space as a 16-hand horse, so. this doesn't over,
So a stable and a greenhouse are permitted by right in T2.
so a stable is there, so you would think you're allowed to have an agricultural definition should probably include T2 if we're going to allow horses in there.
Right.
Unless they're saying that's an other district, and then you can only have one per acre. We just have to clean up and define what an agricultural definition or agricultural district is. Does it include T2 or doesn't it? Clearly, I'm assuming clearly includes AG1.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else on 109?
Yeah.
Okay. 110. Anybody have anything there on the, this is still the outdoor storage and display carryover on the top. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? Nope. Skywalks. Okay, I think we're probably pretty good with this, all the skywalks we have.
I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, none of them?
Is there one even?
Never know.
Yeah.
There was some discussion of putting one over Hopewell from Bell Memorial,
Oh, really?
but that never,
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, that kind of died on the vine so far.
All right, private swimming pools, 8819. All right. Any questions? Nope, that's good. Page 111, which is, again, a continuation of the swimming pools, private, single family.
So real question on 2A in the middle. Pedestrian access gates must open outward, so away from the pool. Trying
Yeah.
to think if there's ever a situation where you can't tell which way away is. I guess that would only be.
This is all the building code stuff.
Oh, it's all
so
in building
Yeah.
code, okay.
I don't want to touch it.
Yeah. Okay, single family,
Swimming pools are? On BI. So this will be interesting, and you may want to note it on 811, given we just discussed flag lots.
So we do have, actually,
We
it
have some
hasn't been,
grandfathered ones, so we have to keep it in here. Because you could have a grandfathered, if flag lots are not approved.
right, there's still flag out lots out
Still
there that
grandfathered ones,
would,
okay.
could build pools, so, yeah.
all right, anything else on 111? Temporary uses, media production. Find. Nope, anybody have anything there on 112?
So how many, do you get a lot of use? So is the use permit for?
It's administrative
It's
permit.
administrative, that's why we don't see
Yeah.
them. Because there's a lot of that goes on and.
No, yeah, we get quite a few. A lot of commercials we get.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is temporary uses now. Well, I guess it's Yeah, temporary uses, yeah.
All right. Anything else on 112? Dan, anything else on media production? 113 continues. Okay, nothing on 113? 114? I don't know if we're changing all, oh, go ahead.
Numbers 6 on that page, and maybe this is a stretch on the hours of operations. Is there something that we could say that if they're have to do a night shot?
So yeah, so there's other,
It's in number
so,
6.
yeah. So basically, the hours of operation from 7:30 AM to 10 PM every day. Any activity to occur between the hours of 10 and 7:30, they have to get waivers and approval for it. And it's considered high impact when they do night shooting.
Okay, so they
Yeah.
have to come in for it.
They have to show us the letters from 95% of the people within 500 feet of the filming location.
So
Say
if
it's okay to
Trey
do it.
wanted to film in the middle of his property, which is more than 500 feet from any of his neighbors. He's good.
So,
I hear there's good money in it, Trey.
Llama
but we do
films.
it,
Llama-
we
llama
do it
commercials.
from, that's right. We do it from, I mean, obviously, probably nobody would really care, but it's from the property line. I do it from 500 feet around the property line.
Because this says the location, and it's like, well, I'm just going to film.
I
right
know,
now.
but I do it for the, just like
property
on
line?
legal,
Okay.
yeah.
So has it come up?
I'm sorry?
It has come up.
A few times. I try to tell people not to do it just because it's very difficult, especially in AG1 to get 95% of 500
That's what I was
feet. So we don't have it often, so.
Okay.
Yeah, probably on some of the bigger properties, it's 3 neighbors. You just, you gotta
Right,
get
yeah.
100%, yeah.
Then number 7, right below that, between the 2 highlighted areas, it says, subparagraph 6 above, and may not violate section 11.7. Is
Shall?
that a shall?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on 114? All right, 115. Anything
So
here?
here, that's interesting on 7, because you're talking about noise control, and noise travels much further than 1,000 feet. But yet you're only asking the people that are within 1,000 feet. So this is saying you have to get 80% of the property owners within 1,000 feet, but noise travels much further than 1,000 feet.
So, yeah, I mean, I think this could be another list. I know that, during the pandemic, we had a feature film filmed and there were a lot of issues that came up. So it can be, I mean, that's a good point, but in general, there are some suggestions about how to tweak this permit. So we can add that to our list.
Okay.
They film Sully and
Okay, and again, 115, anything else? Don't believe so. $116. Anybody have anything on that?
Question for you. There's a definition of a push cart, but there's no.
So
regular-
that is, so push carts are allowed with a warrant in the form-based code areas.
Does that say that somewhere?
Yes, in the and within form-based code and table 9, the specific function. Now, but he has all the tables we looked at earlier, so it should be in one of the tables.
And there's no conditions on that.
Right, there's no conditions, other than a warrant is basically for a use, they have to
Doesn't-
give those 10 reasons or, go through
You
the
need a use
10.
permit for a push cart, but there's no restrictions.
Well, it's a warrant.
Is that what this section is?
Well, it's temporary, so it's not a permanent structure, so it's under the temporary uses. Like it started 8.9 on page
But do we shift it?
112.
And not to be confused with
sorry,
a
I missed-
roadside farm stand?
Right, it's not the same.
Sorry, I missed the shift to 8.9.
Yeah. So all, like the media permit
Yeah.
is temporary, blah, blah, blah.
Gotcha. I saw media production, I didn't see the change to 8.9.
Yeah, I know.
Temporary uses.
Okay, so we're good with push carts?
Yep.
Yeah, Donna's.
Just on
But it's a farm
116,
stand.
B use standards at the bottom, just move to the next page.
Mhm.
Okay. We're assuming some of that when we start entering some of the figures and
Right.
all that'll.
Right.
All right, so then we're jumping to 117. Anybody have any questions, comments? Didn't we have something recently on the farm produce stands? Talked about that recently, didn't we, on something or other, or am I just, whatever, never mind. Not looking to make work for us. Anything on the roadside produce stands as listed here, 8 to 8?
I thought there was something where it was like, remember when we were looking at the chart and it was like the A's were in the wrong place?
Right,
We
there's
did have a
something-
lot of that. And which kind of gets on to the next page because I have a note on, and a couple of notes where we have to add something.
Right, I think it was, yeah, I think it was on the chart.
Yeah, but it was we did go round and round on the chart, looking back at the definitions.
I think this is good.
So I guess I'm a little confused because this talks about the permits and they're only good for 120 days. But I thought there was something that if you're an AG1, you can pretty much have a farm stand to sell what you produced on site all the time.
Okay, so I'm sorry, what were you specifically I know that there's roadside stands that you can sell by, yes.
Well, yeah, Bethany.
agricultural
our
dis-
Lady
Money
who
and
sells
stuff.
flowers.
Yeah, and there's all, up near me, people sell eggs and
Eggs.
Right, okay,
and
yeah.
all sorts of things, but they don't need a permit, I don't think, because they're AG1 and it's produced on site.
Well, we actually do, even the ones, we do require permits for, they can do it, they just need a permit to do it.
But this also then, that kind of limits when they can do it.
Right, it's always been there.
And I had always thought it was like, you have chickens, you want to sell eggs, you can do that.
Is that enforced?
I mean, we've had people come for the permits. I mean,
But are they limiting it to 120 days? Most of them are doing it all the time.
Doesn't this say 365?
Yeah.
If you're in
so in
agriculture?
ag, so if you go to the next page, 118,
Mhm.
and then that speaks to, on the second column, number 2A.
Oh, they can, so because it's an agricultural discount, okay. That's, okay, there is, where I live in AG1, they fall under 2, which is basically they come in for a permit, it's good for a year.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
that
the
makes sense.
idea of the other one is more, I want to put tomato stand because it's seasonal in the CVS parking lot.
Well, that is actually roadside vending.
There we go.
Oh,
Good transition, good segue.
well, no, but if it's tomatoes, it's
I know,
produce.
yeah, so roadside produce stand, there's the definition.
But it has to be
All
produce.
districts, it says all districts except agricultural, no more than 4. So let's say if you, that's really weird.
Well, that would include flowers, right?
If it's produced.
Well, I kind of see this with permitting, kind of like the law that the state just passed, allowing kids to sell lemonade. Couldn't be even, first of all, believe that someone had brought it up and
It's funny.
said that they had to have a business license. So the state now,
Teaching them early.
the state passed a law allowing.
Say they could do that.
So I've got a little concern that particularly the one that I'm talking about, that I guarantee you, they don't have a permit. But they're there, that card's there every day, 365 days of the year. And it has flowers, gardening, twice, I know eggs have been there. So we're saying that
But yeah,
AG1 has to have a permit.
but I think she falls under 2A, where you just get one a year.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's producing it
Right,
on
But
site.
she still has to have a permit.
Mhm.
Right.
I hope we don't have to enforce that.
We'll send you for that one.
Is there-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I shoot back to revival tent?
Uh-huh.
B4, no tent may be located
Joe.
within 250 feet.
Oh, yeah, I meant, and no tent, maybe, instead of must.
On that
So-
same, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Fred brings up a good point, though, because I guess this falls under roadside vending, but if the state said you gotta allow the kids to have lemonade stands, we shouldn't override that, I don't think. State just passed a law that says the kids can have their lemonade stands.
Okay.
So this would say, nope, you need a permit in Milton.
While I would like it to be consistent, if an inconsistency were found, the state rule would preempt our ordinance. It would just be an enforcement matter of knowing whether or not the state had preempted our
Yeah.
code provision. But
We look into lemonade.
Wow, I totally disagree.
Fred just wants to open up a vodka stand just right next to the lemonade stand.
Yeah.
That's what he's going for.
You
Yeah, but I
disagree
think
with
what
the,
Paul is saying is if a state law says
We can do it.
permitted, we should be consistent.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Right.
You
Ideally.
actually agree.
but it'll work. We know how to deal with it if it comes up, but ideally they're consistent.
what if I identify as a kid? Can I sell lemonade then? So on 117B, 895B, it says use standards, number 1, all districts.
Mm-hmm.
And then change the page to 118, it says number 2. So that was number 1, all districts. Number 2 is in agricultural districts. I think we can take the word in off and just leave it agricultural districts.
Yeah. Oh, that's the difference. If you're not in an ag district, you gotta get them for smaller parts, but if you're in AG1 and maybe T2, if we change the definition, if we clarify the definition, then you need 1 per year.
Okay.
That's how I'm reading it?
So get rid of the,
Well, the word in
yeah, right.
is just not
Yeah.
consistent.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I'm almost wondering if it would be clearer for the 895B to put all agricultural districts first. Hey, if you're an ag district, one a year, and then move,
Right, the A.
so two becomes one, and one becomes becomes
All
two,
other.
all
Right.
other districts. I think that's
a
clear,
better
because I
idea.
was confused, you know?
Yeah, that's a better idea.
Not that that is unusual for me to get easily confused, but I think it would be, given our environment where we have so much AG1 and so many produce stands, I think we'd be better to say, do all agricultural districts first and all other districts second.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I second that
Good
motion.
move. Okay, are we done on 118? We talked roadside vending, but it's just defined there. There's nothing else associated with that, correct?
Right, the sale of merchandise, blah, blah, blah. Side vending.
There's no use standards
I'm
or,
just curious what
It's
the
in
et
the-
cetera covers. Clothing,
It's in the,
crafts,
you have to go
household
on the
items,
table to
firewood.
see where it's allowed and if it's warrants or whatever, or permits
What is
or
in the same
use permit.
category as clothing and
Firewood,
firewood? I don't think it's changing it. It's just,
yeah.
Here's what's interesting. We have people around here that sell firewood, but it's not in a stand. They got a sign that says firewood and a number, and it's stacked in the back.
Yeah,
So it's not really from a temporary table or cart. It's basically, you got a sign
well,
that
don't even
says.
get me
false-
started on firewood,
Firewood,
because
okay,
most
okay,
people
never-
selling firewood, it's not coming from their property, they're just bringing it,
Oh, they're
and then
bringing
they're
it in.
selling it in stacks, and then. So anyway.
So they do need a permit because they truly are vendors.
Yeah, I mean, they really shouldn't be,
You're not supposed to do that.
yeah, well,
They should apply for a permit.
right, I
May
guess
or may not be
technically, yeah.
granted.
They would apply for that permit that roadside, but it's not really a produce.
Well, it's roadside vending 896.
Right, but I think if we looked at the use chart, roadside vending's not allowed in AG1.
Oh.
Because it's more like the old, velvet rugs with Elvis and stuff that used
Right.
Oh,
at the gas stations.
yeah.
So that's like roadside vending.
Yeah.
So if we looked at the use chart, it probably doesn't allow, and that's why I'm saying that, okay, if you cut all your trees on 28, whatever, over time, and you're selling firewood, okay, but most people who sell firewood are getting the firewood from, let's say they're a landscape business and they're getting it from, their
Tree work.
clients or whatever.
Or tree cutters sell the
Right.
trees to firewood places
Yeah.
to sell. Yeah. Okay.
okay? So page 119,
Hi, go ahead.
Based on just what we finished discussing, this defined the primary use involving the sale of items related to holidays and so forth. May be conducted outside. So in one area, we're seeing, if I'm understanding it right, they don't have to have a permit to do that.
You do. There is a permit for it. If you go,
So I have a note here that says add 1608A. Now, I wrote that some time ago because it was maybe some language in some code, whatever, which was probably the use permit 84-1608A that didn't get here that helped clarify it. So there was a piece of language in the existing code -1608A that needed to be added here, that I think clarified some of this.
Okay, because it goes on down to say that you do have to have a permit in all districts. Well, I've said it many times, but I know we have to have many of these ordinances, but I have a real problem in the fact that we cannot control
enforce them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm on that original seasonal business use. So what you were thinking that might be,
No, it's, if you, on down to all districts, you say that it has to have a permit.
right, I mean, when they, so when Hunter's Christmas tree comes, they come in and ask for,
Right.
they have a permit they have to apply for.
Yeah. So what 64-1608A describes is
The, where it's
the
allowed.
required districts and all that. And I have a note, we need to add that here because this is talking about all districts. And then it says it's allowable in AG1 only when the property is occupied by a church, school, lodge, retreat. And when we were looking at the chart, we felt it would be helpful to add 1608A into here because it talks about the churches and the schools and the plant nurseries, et cetera.
Okay. Or is it somewhere else? Oh, okay, so under C, Emily saw on page 120, it talks about that. It has that paragraph.
Oh, it got moved over there. Okay.
The only thing else I have is under page 119B, it's uses standard, use standards.
Yeah.
So in C also, I'll let you look at Hertz first and come back on C.
Yeah, no, I got it. His was short.
Okay, on C at the end of that, it needs a period at the end.
Oh, yeah.
This may have been discussed during my absence, but some places we use director and some places we use community director.
I think it just,
We're not consistent. That may have been brought up before.
Good. I don't have it in front of me, but if that's true, then consistent.
right. Yeah, I think it just stays as director unless it was like a public works director, then we would say public works director.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we already talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always find it, I think citing an actual like position, because what if you decide to restructure
Right.
and it's not a director? You're going to have to rechange all the documents. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well-
Technically, you can just make the definition up front. The director means the head of the department. I mean, you can change the definition.
well, let's say you get rid of, what if you change the department? I mean, you
could-
can't predict what's going to happen down the road. New leadership comes in, you change things. I mean, that happens all the time. So
Well, this case,
from a corporate perspective, we never put that sort of language because you get stuck with it and you don't want to be stuck with it. You want to have the, ability to change as things change down the road. New council comes in, new people are here, different things happen, and you don't want to have to change all those documents. That's just my point. So.
no, I agree. In other words, if you read that, a director and they goes, well, what director do I go to get this? Is there a permit director or?
If somebody
But
said,
A community director to
or
me is
a department,
broad.
or I would
What you're
say,
saying.
if it's community development, well, that means more to me than anything, because I can go
Right.
on the website and go, oh, that's it.
Well, but I think that's
It's a
in the
defined term.
definition. It's in the
It's
It's in the
defined term.
definition, though, that the director means the community development director.
Right, that's in the definition.
But you're talking about a person. What if that person's not there anymore?
Or their designee.
We've had that position
Might
name for
restructure.
17 years. I get your point. They could come and call it the commissioner, like City of Atlanta, they call her the commissioner of planning or whatever, which is,
Yeah, it
so
could
if
be.
somebody wanted to come, then we just have to do
You
a
can either
change.
change the definition, say director means the commissioner of the department,
Right.
then this is all still good. It may be
Yeah.
a little, or you can go through and say, global change to the whole ordinance, it now says change director to commissioner. I mean, if the board does that, if the council does that, they need to know the implications
So
of
there's
doing
ways
that.
around that, there's ways to handle it.
Or the
Yeah.
city manager. Before you start changing department names.
Mhm.
All right, so we're at 120, page 120, is that where everybody is?
Mhm.
All right.
Non-structural.
Anything on there that we should address? All right. 21, non-structural consumer fireworks and retail sales facilities. Fine, we've got that, temporary consumer fireworks retail sale. Yeah, anything on that looks,
All this fireworks is relatively recent, so.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I
Yeah.
can remember a long discussion. Had wheels.
And I don't think anybody's been selling fireworks lately in the city.
Well,
Well,
Costco and, well, Costco's.
Well, I meant like
Alpharetta.
as a stand.
As a
I
stand.
haven't seen any permits, yeah.
Well, as I had tried to
Yep.
advise the fire director, if you charge them, they'll go up the road where they don't. If you enforce the permit and have to enforce and require them to pay the $500 you're supposed to, they'll just hike, they'll find someplace else that doesn't charge them 500.
Yeah.
Yep.
okay, so we're pretty good on that. 122. Get the fireworks and we get the temporary manufactured home. Anything on that? Okay. 123, temporary structures, other. Pretty good on that, it sounds like.
Yep.
All right.
Now we have to go back to 8.5. You all will let me know when we're having fun, right? I don't want to miss it.
Out now.
Commercial uses. Adult entertainment establishments.
Why does this look like it's picked up from some other language and be very careful, don't mess with it?
Takes careful writing.
It's carefully written? Okay.
Unless there's a typo or when he wrote it in and there was a,
Page
not a
862.
period or something.
Okay, so on page 62, anybody have anything?
Difference in grammar.
You know what, when she did your copies, she expanded it. And then the problem is you're missing part of it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the only thing is like the random highlight in 2AI and the random highlight in 3A on 64.
Oh, is that a color one?
Oh, it's on 64.
As well as the random highlight of 4A.
Also, if we're on 63 yet, I don't know if you've transitioned to that yet.
Can't hear you, Paul.
Have we gotten to 63?
That's where 61, the cell tower locations, is that map in the wrong area?
That's at the
Well,
end.
that's the end, never mind, never mind.
We did that already.
So yes, Paul, you were on,
Well, I'm on 63 looking at 5 and 6 are V and VI. So this paragraph A, I know that's pulled over from probably a resolution that the city council adopted. It was probably in the way it was enumerated in that document, but in this, we're not. I guess, are we in a section 8.51A?
Yeah, I would say I'd put the 851A, 8.5.1 in front of that to be clearer.
So it says this paragraph A, adult bookstore. I immediately went back to A, adult bookstore.
Yeah, I see it. It took me a second to think that we were in paragraphs. I'm probably okay with it, since I don't see anything else confusing that it would be mixed up with.
So in the original zoning, it says for 5, the city council further finds that this section of this zoning ordinance regarding regulation of adult bookstores.
Right.
So of this paragraph A,
If we generally.
which is a adult
is-
bookstore,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Has our
it's
convention
probably
been
okay.
to say 8.5.1A or just to say A?
Well, he's referring
Put that-
back to the adult bookstore A.
Go back to Caleb, but if we've been saying
guess
saying
it's in the very first one.
8.5.1A, then do it here.
Yeah, because it's in,
2A1.
yeah, 2A1.
I note that that's a capital P paragraph there,
Yeah. I
just
do
for that, but
see it's here too.
Oh,
I think he has a convention, I just don't want it to get changed in this one.
since it says this paragraph A, adult bookstore, I don't think there's any confusion.
yeah, I think it's okay.
I haven't noticed that same language throughout, but I get it, so I'm not going to make a change.
What page are we on?
We were on 63, but I think we're just quickly moving to the 64. Yeah, 'cause all over here, there's paragraph A.
Well, so I made a note that to be consistent, because it's appears several times on 64, the capital P for paragraph.
One or the other.
Yeah, one or the other.
Okay? So the use standards, again, the random rogue highlight.
Have there been lawsuits in Milton related to this in the past?
Nope.
I don't think so.
I'm just wondering why this is so detailed compared to everything else.
Because it's highly regulated but highly controversial.
Yeah.
So you got to be really careful how you write things given the First Amendment.
Because it's been ruled that this is protected by First Amendment rights.
Can we require that they're only put in flag lots?
How long?
No longer permitted?
We're done.
Would that be a,
Not if we eliminate all flag lots, no.
there are already, I mean, we have some grandfathered
think we're at
flag
one
lots.
now.
Then maybe we're
A
okay.
little laugh.
Shops, right?
Gosh.
So, okay, are we on 65 now?
On 65 and F, they still have the bolded beginning and end quotations that can be unbolded.
Okay.
And then 4A, a rogue highlight on A.
Okay. Anybody else?
I missed that. Judy, I'm sorry. What did you say? 4A?
4A, there's a rogue highlight on A itself.
Oh.
We're calling them rogue now.
Rogue.
Like that got away.
So page 66.
Page 66 in B1, again, some bolded open and closing quotations in the bottom 2/3 of that paragraph.
Okay. Yeah. and B is bold also on the,
Yeah, that's consistent.
okay. Anything on 66, 67?
Yeah,
And on 8-67B, to be consistent, this paragraph, I think we've been capitalizing paragraph.
Yeah, I saw that in.
Yeah, it's there
B2
twice.
On the previous page. There's probably a few,
Okay,
And I've got a note to check
Yeah.
throughout.
yeah.
okay. So we're down to 67, moving to 68. Getting a little bit of rogue highlighting, but it's even gone to mid-word highlighting under H.
Well, H is supposed to be a link.
Yeah, but I mean,
Sometimes they'll highlight the links when they don't have them defined yet.
we didn't even do the whole subsection, we just did the section highlight there.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
The random M and the random A. Or the rogue, sorry. Rogue highlighting.
Yep.
Okay,
Well, on that,
Um,
on
in,
B, on page 68, spelling of director,
yeah, so I got it.
you
C,
got it?
4C, the dire actor.
the dire actor,
Director.
pretty dire.
The dire actor.
I
Right,
think it's Harrison Ford now.
Yeah.
only caught that because I kept seeing this planning commission work kept popping up.
Okay, good catch.
Hang on one sec. In 3N, I think we call these things sections rather than sentences
yeah.
or subsections, probably preferably.
Or just K and L.
Or just identified.
Above, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you are referring them as to K or L, do you put, is it K period and L period?
Whatever the convention is.
Okay. Well, page 69,
And, yeah,
aircraft landing areas.
I would have said,
Be quite interesting.
You know,
Like, huh?
We need our private aircraft.
I would have said,
I'll tell you, and this
3K.
may be something that we need to talk about. The writ of certiorari for appeals is no longer a thing
Okay.
as of first of this month. So
And
what
which,
are we missing as of July 1st?
the writ of certiorari is no
Oh.
longer an appeal method. It's now a writ or a petition for review.
So, and which one of these is,
I just
The
noticed it
D.
in D denial. If
it's under D denial? Okay.
on page 8-69 talks about the writ of certiorari. That's probably going to be significant throughout here, throughout the
okay, so
whole
be,
UDC. So we need to
so
talk
it's
about
the application for what? Did you say?
petition for review. Pretty sure I'll have to get, I mean, it's highly similar to the certiorari process, but it has been changed. and it
Right,
got a
in
new-
the
they
state
basically
law.
renamed a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
and feel like they corrected it.
And should that be a defined term, or is it, if we say petition for review and since it has to
it's
be
gonna-
filed with court, it has a meaning?
I think it's going to have to be something that we work out because it's going to be more than just this section.
Okay.
So it's probably going to be a broad set of changes throughout the whole UDC.
So Caleb needs to do a global search and replace on writ of Satori?
Yeah, and he probably knows that because he knows about the state law changing.
Yeah.
He was waiting for us to do the changes. So
Yeah,
that's
this was
probably-
drafted
Right,
before
yeah.
the first of the month. So
all right, so in the air, kind of moving on to the aircraft landing area.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, are we ready for the aircraft landing area?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does
What
that
about-
include helicopters? Because wasn't there?
That's
Rotary
both
wing.
for planes and helicopters, yeah.
Why?
B1 is fixed wing,
Because we're
B2 is fixed and rotary wing.
Right.
Get some-
Rotary wing.
Soon to
Rotary
include
wing.
drones.
Yeah, past rotary
Well,
wing.
Is it rotary wing?
I think so.
Shouldn't be allowed.
Size of some of these drones
Technically.
now are airplanes.
Yeah,
Rotary
they're on the horizon for sure.
Allowing it?
People drones.
That's true.
Rotary wing.
Do we have any helipads in Milton?
Not that I know of.
Okay,
Not-
rotary wing airplane, rotary.
There's been none that have been created.
Well, yeah, that's what I think.
At least formally. I'm not saying that people haven't landed helicopters on their property, but there's no, that I know of, yeah.
I think that would be a huge concern for people
Yeah.
with a capital H.
I'm trying to find aircraft landing area in the table, because I think there's some restrictions on where they can be. Aircraft, all aircraft landing areas are use permit everywhere. Somebody,
So what happens when that football coach flies his helicopter and lands in Milton, in the school?
Is that what happened?
That's what happens, huh? So,
Well, like I said.
I know. I'm just wondering that,
Yeah.
anyway.
What are you saying, Robin? It hadn't happened?
I mean, I'm saying I'm sure there's helicopters that have landed, but we don't have any aircraft landing area permitted
the
that
area.
yeah.
well, someone tried.
Yeah, that's true. That was the rumor.
So a bar.
Oh, now we're having fun, right?
Kind of bar.
No.
Guy walks into a
Oh,
bar.
my goodness.
We define it. Any questions, comments on 69 there and then over?
So on 69, I think we would, at the, in A, 8453A defined, I think the chapter, back to the paragraph, chapter 4, I think chapter is capitalized
Mhm.
in the reference.
Well, I don't know.
Because we decided to, when we're doing, before, when we referred to chapter 4, we capitalized chapter.
Okay.
Whatever's consistent.
Yeah, whatever's,
Mm.
yeah.
Okay. Daycare facility, anything there?
You said I wouldn't touch this.
Daycare facility in A, they've got the bolded quotation marks that can be unbolded.
Yep. All right, anything else? Okay. Page 71. Festival or events, indoor, outdoor, non-indoor recreation. Anybody have anything on that?
Is there a reason that's
Indoor
highlighted?
auditorium.
These all are bolded.
On
Yeah. Oh,
71? Are you on 70 or 71? Or
71. If-
why is protect the public's
Okay,
health,
900.
safety?
Yep.
cap-
A rogue bold,
We're not gonna
Oh,
make it.
Yep.
a rogue bold.
I'll be sure to tell
Rogue.
everybody
Or
that
both.
it's your fault.
All right, anything else on 71?
Back on 70 in B5, have we been capitalizing city council? I think we have been, last line of 70.
Okay, good.
It's capitalized.
All right, so moving to 72. Anything on 72?
Back on
The
70,
bolded.
yeah, back on 71, I don't know why we have B highlighted and maybe you caught that.
Let's go 72.
of all of them.
Okay,
I'm not sure why. Yeah, the rogue.
all right, so 72. Questions or concerns there?
So question on 72G pool hall. Because it says it's, if there's, I feel like I'm like at the Music Man, you know, we got trouble here in River City because it says if there's 3 or more pool tables, it's a pool hall. What if it's also a restaurant? Because it's not permitted in any place on the
Right.
table,
Yeah.
but we've got restaurants with more than 3 pool tables.
I mean, I don't know how staff interprets, but thinking just in generally, I would say it would qualify as a pool hall, such that if they want 3 pool tables, then they need to get their pool.
Or is it,
Well, but then it goes on to say,
They have
"It is
to ch-
permitted to play the games of billiards and for which a charge is made for use of equipment, or for which no charge is made for use of equipment, and where alcoholic beverages are being
yeah, well, if
served."
the restaurant serves alcohol.
Yeah,
Restaurants and food, yeah.
so maybe that's something we need to put on our list for, I mean,
Future
do we have
consideration?
do we have places that have
Yes,
pool
yeah.
tables?
We have one of
What's
these.
the-
I know of
I don't
one.
know what you're
I don't
asking.
frequent them often, but I know of one. I'm not that good.
Okay,
And
Your ask,
probably,
your ask is if a restaurant should be, if a restaurant has 3 pool tables, then it's considered a pool hall.
right.
what this definition says.
It looks like
That's
it.
not true.
And,
This time.
And
yeah,
Fred's like, I go to them, I
because
do.
it,
No, I'm with
Okay,
Judy.
I mean, you can get into the same way we characterize a bar or whatever, depending on the amount of food. So if a pool hall serves, or, you know, conducts a certain amount of business in food versus, I mean, we would have to come up with definitions
So
around it
here's
or
what-
exceptions.
Well,
or
we got into this discussion a long time ago when we were talking about definitions of what percentage of a restaurant serves food versus bars, and this is kind of in that same thing.
Yep.
yeah. And this, one of the one I'm thinking of, how they make it away with it is it's like a separate room. And you can't, if you want alcohol, you have to go into the other room where the restaurant is. So the pool tables are there and they don't charge. So then technically it's not a pool hall because the alcohol is through the
Separate.
doorway.
What's the issue with pool halls? I just don't know
They're not
much.
allowed in Milton.
So I don't understand why not. I'm not a big
but
pool
then
player at all. but-
practically, there are pool halls that operate based on this definition you're saying.
Are they just known for being rowdy or something, or what the?
I
what's
don't
the-
know, I just am saying,
Is there a lot of drinking?
the law says this, but yet we
It is.
know of one.
Right.
In the
Well,
laws?
this definition does say, you know, and where alcoholic beverages are being served, not alcoholic beverages and food are being served.
And
Well,
then that gets back to
So,
the percentage of
that's
food
okay.
that you serve versus liquor and how you're permitted. And I think we had that discussion in that some weren't meeting
One
that
of the things is-
definition.
I mean, if the restaurant isn't charging for use of the pool table, in other words, it's just there and you can use them, that doesn't meet this definition.
Yeah, it does. And where alcohol beverages are being served.
Mhm.
So if there's no charge for them, but alcohol's being served, then it's a
Or,
pool hall.
like I say, or for which no
Yeah.
charges, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have a need to call out pool halls?
Well, because they're not allowed. By code, they're not allowed.
By virtue of G?
Well,
By
because it's
virtue
in
of the
use
table.
chart.
Yeah.
Oh, in the use chart.
So this is one, it's like, well, if we want to allow it, do we need to revise it? If we're
Yes.
okay with them continuing, we need to revise the code.
Does anybody know if there are issues with pool halls? I mean, I've seen movies where
Yeah, they get
always bar fights in pool halls for some reason, but is that real?
cues.
No,
The
there's the
Roadhouse pool
high-end
halls.
pool and bars. I mean, like Nice.
I'm just wondering why we need to call out pool halls in the code at all if it's not a problem.
It's
We're putting an
there
unnecessary
now. We
burden.
didn't put it there.
Yeah.
But if we're okay with it, then we should change the code to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, to move it.
I will say,
To move
if
it.
you let them in, you're more likely to get the ones you don't want. If it's allowed, or someone can say, it doesn't say I can't do this. But
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. It's not the best policy to put something in your code and just not enforce it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or to make it a use permit. You want to do it? Okay, you got to come and
Yeah.
show that, you're not a detriment to society.
Is it a use permit now?
No, it's
required?
not
No, it's not
allowed.
Just not allowed, period.
Yeah, if you go to the chart, which says do you need a use permit or an admin permit?
Right.
Not allowed.
Not allowed. I remember seeing that.
That
So,
makes sense.
and then, Paul, is there something that says if you allow something to go on for so long, does it become allowed?
The concept of a vested right, if you let something, if you
Allow.
provide an assurance of the issuance of a permit and they spend money based on your assurance, then that's a vested right. However, if they just do it, even if if staff were to give you a permit to operate a pool hall, you wouldn't get to keep doing it because it's against the code. You can't vest a right in an illegal use. So this wouldn't likely create a right to keep doing it.
So it sounds like something that says it needs further discussion of either we change the code to allow it or we say, no, this shouldn't be allowed and it needs to be enforced.
That's the appropriate response.
Is that our decision to make?
No, we can recommend because it would
Yeah, I
have,
don't know that that's what
As
the
per
scope of
special.
this review is. It's, it's the list.
On the list.
it's on the list
Yeah.
for further review. So we can, because I believe it's within our scope to say, hey, we found something in the code and it needs to be changed, city council, we're recommending you change it.
Yeah.
And now it has to probably, in some cases, go through CZ. Depending, it would have to go to CCIM, but I think we as a board can recommend updates to the code.
Okay.
Okay. Trouble in River City.
Capital T.
So where does that leave us? Are we going to recommend something? Are we
Put it on the list.
put on the list? Kick it down the road.
Kick the can.
Okay. Then it leaves theater, lodging, bed and breakfast. Any updates, any comments on those sections?
So on 73, just again, country inn and bed and breakfast have the bolded definition quotes, bolded quotes that can be unbolded. And I had to say, I read this at quite length at one time because there's the possibility that you could VRBO under these definitions, but you need a use permit. If I remember, these require use permits.
Sounds like it. That's something someone should.
Say that again. Say that again, G.
So
It's a loophole.
if somebody wanted to do a VRBO, they could apply for
Country.
Country.
a country inn or a bed and breakfast, but I believe those require a use permit.
And must be owner occupied.
Well, it depends on which one. One is owner occupied, the other isn't, but that's how you would get a VRBO in, is through these either B or C, depending on how you had it set up.
Right. Oh, wait, those both have to be owner occupied, correct? Bed and breakfast and the country inn?
One does, one does not.
Because BC says bed and breakfast must be owner occupied. And then C,
Occupied too.
2C says country inn must be owner occupied. think they're both owner occupied.
Yeah. Bed and breakfast is primary use as a private residence.
Okay.
So basically, if you, because I've heard of places where like they're renting out the guest house as a VRBO, that's fine, but you got to feed them breakfast and you have to apply for a permit. The way I read this.
That would be an Airbnb technically.
Yeah, VRBO.
Yeah, guest house, you can't charge rent for, correct? You can't charge anything for a guest
Oh,
house.
that's right, guest, but they are
Right.
used, yeah. But they could apply to not be a guest house, but instead to be a bed and breakfast inn. But then what's interesting here is it has to be off a major road. A lot of these aren't. But I believe a bed and breakfast needs a permit.
The owner occupation, I think, is the
Pardon?
catch. The owner occupied statement in each one of these, I think, is the catch, right? That would prevent the VRBO model.
No,
Well, if,
Some of
it
them
would
are. Some of them aren't.
Airbnb.
Yeah.
Airbnb model.
But when you get into the, I'm renting out,
right, a guest house over a garage, I still live on the property, but I could then rent that out as a Airbnb, a short-term rental.
if I
For
get
no
a,
less than 30 days. So the concept of a bed and breakfast is not a 30-day stay. I mean,
Right.
no, so, but then it doesn't, we don't allow short-term rentals.
unless you get a use permit for a bed and breakfast.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Under country inn 2A, lot area must be at least 6 acres. Take out that of.
But I'm,
Oh, mhm.
5.8.
So we come to, are we okay with bed and breakfast and country inns the way it is here?
What a bed and breakfast says, here's what's interesting. If you go to the chart, a bed and breakfast needs a use permit in, I'll look more in the agricultural areas because that's, I think, where some of the questions are coming up. Bed and breakfast needs a use permit. It's so hard to find some of this stuff. Bed and breakfast is all lodging. A bed and breakfast needs a use permit in the rural overlay, outside of Deerfield and Crabapple in AG1, R6 and TR, so I guess, and a country inn is also allowed in AG1 by a use permit, so, and then different requirements in the form-based code, but they do have to come for a use permit.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Both country inn and bed and breakfast.
Right.
Additionally, in bed and breakfast, it describes that it can have a sign. Country inn doesn't say whether it can or cannot have a sign.
Yeah, under F, I think, doesn't it?
It's F.
Yeah. Country inn F, identification or advertising sign is limited to one sign, 9 square feet.
Okay, sorry.
No,
Yeah, some of yours
But
is
it-
cutting off, I
It's
think.
bigger.
It's bigger than the bed and breakfast.
4x4
Has more
versus
people
9.
staying.
Because the country inn is bigger than the bed and breakfast.
So the bigger it is, the bigger the sign.
Okay.
Because it's 6 to 30 rooms.
Okay.
So if if somebody wanted to bring their Airbnb VRBO into compliance, they'd need to come in and apply for a use permit for either, most likely a bed and breakfast because it's smaller,
Yeah,
and then they'd have to serve them breakfast,
and they'd have to live there.
and they'd have to live
They
there.
couldn't just have,
Yeah.
you know,
But it'd have to be either a room rental or a guest house, and then they wouldn't be able to charge if it were a guest house.
Correct.
say that again.
It'd either have to be one of the bedrooms in the main house
Right,
that they could
or-
charge for,
Yeah,
or it would have to be the guest house and it'd have to be a free rental. Because you can't
then
rent a
that's
guest
not
house.
really a rental if it's free, but yeah. I
Right,
mean, the
but a
intent is
free-
to be in one structure for a bed and breakfast. Well, technically you can only go up to 5 guest rooms, private residence. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really speak to other buildings, outbuildings, because I know some bed and breakfasts have different buildings, technically, you
Yeah.
know. But in our definition, you really just can have a primary house and use that for the bed and breakfast, so.
And we're okay with that?
And then we have like restrictions on what you can use a guest house for, which is only for
Family or
family
employees.
or employees,
Yeah.
so,
Or friends,
or friends.
guests.
Yes,
It says guests.
those guests.
So,
Not
All right.
easy.
While you were away, we put pool halls on the list for further discussion.
Okay.
Okay,
Is the word country in, looking for? Something that's used normally?
Yeah, this has been here forever, the country inn. It's
Okay.
been-
I'm just
Normally
thinking
we had them in
of
Iowa.
the hotel motel country
Yeah.
inn too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
okay.
So I'm going to back up because I just picked up our piece of paper and there were some comments on page, I'm going to back up under daycare facility, 854A. One of the suggestions from the online was to alphabetize nursery, school, kindergarten, et cetera.
Mhm.
And then they have comments on the next page too.
Which page would that be?
74 when we get to it.
Oh, okay.
All right. Are you ready to get to that? Outside of the road, bolded quotation marks?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're in D2 under hotel motel. The bolded.
Okay, the roads. Then you're saying on 74 that those, somebody comment, those should be alphabetized?
Yeah, so under 8510A, they were suggesting that be alphabetized, which it almost is
Pretty darn close.
until you get to 7 and then it unalphabetizes, so. And then, on C, I think it's barbers, not babers.
Hmm.
Where's this?
On
Oh,
page 74C1, barbers, not babers.
I think there's some babers working there.
Yeah.
babe. Barbers.
Yep, and then I have another notice that I think it says split out. I think we had some discussion on the use table that we shouldn't trade schools and business schools the same as dancing schools, but I need to go back and see what was on the table. 8510. But we had some discussion about they were different, so we might want to have
Another definition.
Split it out because I think the uses might have been different. Or where they were allowed might have been different.
Also, while she's looking that up, in that one definition, it's barber, including barbers, not bevers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just have some note on that that says split that out between,
Business and trade schools and art schools.
business and trade school. Yeah, I don't know, I just say split out because perhaps where it came from had it separate and there was, you could have a painting and a sculpting place where you might not have a business school or a trade school. But maybe not. I don't, these old notes that I make that say split out and I don't know why.
Well, they do have art-focused schools that have multifaceted
Yeah.
parts of art.
Art.
Well, if you go up to Tennessee, they have a whole area of all art-focused.
Yeah,
So, yes.
yes.
And they're not a trade school or vocational school. Those are different.
No.
While you were talking about barbers, did you see beautification next to it?
Yeah, we did.
So are we breaking out? a new
So
def-
when did
No.
we start calling them beautifications instead of beauty schools? And I know I'm old because that's old school to call them a beauty school.
As we're referencing musicals, the beauty school dropout.
It's really, it's esthetician. Esthetician is the appropriate terminology. Beauty's
But I
out.
think they're saying more like barbers and like to cut hair, like
That's esthetician.
it's esthetician.
Yeah, now it's all, they're
yeah.
all, oh, yeah. Yeah.
Beautification isn't really a noun,
Right.
much less one that can be plural.
Details.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll figure out a better
Maybe it's
word
supposed
for
to
that.
be beauticians.
I think.
I
if
think it
you-
was beauticians,
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought it was beauticians as well.
Yeah.
Barbers and
I would,
beauticians,
I
yeah,
would
okay.
double check out and see what the licensing is, because I think they've changed a lot of it, to be quite honest.
I hate to be funny, but can you imagine saying, she really needed some beautifications?
I wouldn't say it.
And I think a more contemporary term is cosmetology.
Yeah, I think that's
Actually,
probably
that is.
closer,
I
yeah.
think that's how they get licensed is cosmetology.
Sounds right.
But
We'll
there's
double
also
check.
estheticians, which is another
Yes.
field.
Correct.
But I think this was supposed to be beauticians.
I do too.
Yeah.
Okay. Feel better now.
You resolved that
You feel
problem.
better. Kurt feels better now.
Say, Caleb, you really confused us.
So, okay, anything else on page 74?
Yeah, it's the Georgia State Board of Cosmetology and Barbers.
Of cosmetology?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Anything else on 74? Should we jump to 75?
We shall.
Do you have anything on 75? Okay. Hours of operation,
Yeah.
8 to 11, is that
Yeah, we're just gonna have to
standard?
ask them to do
Let's
the
under the
same,
amphitheater?
be consistent
8
with
to
the
11.
listings.
Colon and
It doesn't-
periods.
Two right there.
Doesn't seem,
But the city wouldn't have to qualify under this.
Oh, whether it's hyphenated or not, I don't know.
I think it's one.
8 a.m. to 11 p.m.
They could be using it for special events.
It's one
or-
word. One word. According to Oxford
So,
Dictionary.
I mean, I
So
just,
I think, I think this is,
One
I get
word.
into didn't we redefine these as
But
outdoor amphitheaters and
Some,
like they're outdoor outdoor auditorium is what this is called.
okay.
In
Not
the
an
T zones, it's outdoor
Dictionary puts that
auditorium. I think amphitheater is in the A zones.
Outdoors, right there.
Dictionary put it together.
Good old Webster.
All right, let's go on to 76. Okay, anybody have anything on page 76?
I actually have something back on 75 under 8511A1. I think there's a comma and a period and it just needs to be a period.
looks like it is.
At first I thought it was dirt on my page and then I realized it was actually a
Yeah.
typo.
I think
Okay,
we just have to get
Real
everything
good catch there.
Yeah,
consistent.
we're gonna ask him to make that consistent
Also-
throughout the
Yeah,
whole.
but we don't need a comma and a period.
Yeah.
That's true.
Also, under that same section, we need the semicolon.
Right, so we're just gonna,
And then number 3 is the only plural. Everything else is singular. Maybe it's meant to be that way, but
I think it is, amusements, like outdoor amusements. It's like.
what is an outdoor
description.
amusement?
It's like a carnival, a fair, like,
Okay,
there's not just one amusement there, there's multiple.
okay.
I think that's okay.
Now it's outlined in D on the next one, outdoor amusements.
Okay.
okay. All right, 76. Anything else here?
They're your outdoor amusements.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, outdoor auditorium. All right, page 77. Racetrack, stadiums, private schools.
On F2C, permitted curb cut access shall not be?
Yeah,
Okay. Anything else?
For consistency in G2C, in other places we've said from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. when adjacent to residential districts. I'm looking at comparing F2F to G2C.
Okay.
Probably other ones to check for consistency throughout.
Okay.
No, he was just saying F2F.
So the online comments on page 78, A was to alphabetize that.
Mm-hmm.
So fortune telling is out of order.
Establishment.
Telling, comma, fortunes. Nope, still out of order. Never mind.
All right, 78. What else we have here? Okay. Go to 79 then.
I have a question on 78C2D. It's non-business, one word or hyphenated?
I don't know.
According to the dictionary, it's one word.
Okay.
Then under, going back to 78, we've got fortune telling with the T not capitalized, but then when we get to F on page 79, the fortune and the telling is capitalized. I don't know what's right.
Might be because it's in the header or the title of the section.
But like funeral home is, H is lowercase, so
Yeah.
it looks like the convention, at least in that section, is G, home should be
Yeah,
capitalized.
I agree.
That should be done under 78 A4 also then, I guess.
Well, it's interesting, in A, they're all leading case, capitalized, lowercase second, but when they become the title of a section,
then it
they're
becomes so.
capitalizing
So you just
the
need to-
leading letter of both words.
Yeah, they just need to be consistent.
Yeah.
See what we're saying? Okay, great, good. We can move on. Okay, 79, was there anything else? 79?
On page 79, H1,
Mm-hmm.
in the fifth line, for some reason, it looks like owners, the apostrophe is bolded.
That's very rogue. That's the ultra rogue.
Super Bowl.
You can see that when you're not really reading the words.
Anything else on 79?
On 79, 2A, I'm sorry, 2 at the end of that sentence, should it be set forth below, colon?
No. Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Only when you say following, then it's colon.
80. Anything on page 80? Okay. Um, 81.
Another. Under H, the
Your manufacturers.
manufacturer's original sealed, bolded.
Oh.
Okay. 81, anything there?
81.
'82. More rogue bolding.
Maybe alphabetized A. 1 through 4.
You know, I will say, some of these, I think
Supposed to
the
be
following
on- probably should
subsections
say on
follow the
premises or
order
off premises.
that's in that, one of the
Oh,
preliminary ones.
Yeah.
So want to consider
Wouldn't
whether or
matter.
not it's more
Yeah.
important to have them alphabetized and then rearrange the ones that follow.
Sure.
Or
Right.
leave
And
the
again,
ones that
still the same,
follow.
some capitalized, some not. Yeah,
On
some
eight-
capitalized in the list, but then are not capitalized in the list.
On 82A, define,
Yep,
should that be food and drink for on or off premises?
Would it be clear if it said on premises
On
or
pre-
off
or
premises?
Yeah.
I like that better, but
I'm good with that. Okay, anything else?
And on 80, on the bottom of 82, bottom right side of 82, no bold on the full-service restaurant, and I think our convention has been to 2 lines later to capitalize chapter of chapter
And
4.
there's that one under brew pub too, the chapter 4.
Yeah.
All right. 83. I don't see any on 83. Anybody else have anything on 83?
Now, somewhere, so on 85 point, on number 12, I thought we prohibited vape shops. But everything else,
We
like
did.
throughout
We did.
Milton,
We do.
so do we want to not have it there? Because don't we somewhere, or don't we then say, or do we need it there because we need it listed so we can prohibit it?
Right, so that, let me see if. it's
Okay,
in
so
the-
we need it listed so we can prohibit it, but there are others. Okay. I think pawn shop, okay.
So we're good with that in there?
I think you have to leave it in there so you can prohibit it.
Leave it in there to take it out.
Leave it in there and don't allow it.
84.
um,
Anything here? Again, this is all relatively new compared to some of the other stuff, right?
Yeah, so it's recently written.
Yeah.
A lot of this before. We went through the table.
So on 884 D2D, chapter capitalized on chapter 4.
Okay.
And then down on GI, I think we've been, like section, section 3214, 114, I think we've been capitalizing section.
And under use standards of craft beer and wine, under 2A, it should have a period. And then 2B should have a period.
D, period.
D. Oh, and then on the bottom left, little 8,
Saturday.
yeah.
Is cannabid oil? Is that proper?
Yeah,
Is it cannabid oil, 2 words, or is that the right word?
it's one word.
Kind of bit of old.
But that's eel. I don't have my phone, so I can't look that word up.
I'll look it up. It's,
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Cannabidiol is a compound found in marijuana.
yep, CBD.
I'm kind of glad we don't know that in this commission.
Oh, really? I looked it up.
Yeah, sure, Paul, yeah.
There you go.
It's right here.
Leave it to the attorney to come up with that one, right?
Put
Yeah.
off the vial in his pocket.
Yeah, right, got you.
Is not impairing, meaning it does not cause a high.
There you go.
All right. All right, 85. We're all done with 84, 85?
85, the very first little double I, there should be a period at the end of there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else?
I couldn't, and just maybe, Robin, we, way back on equine garment fabrication, we had lots of discussion on it, and I checked and back, but do you remember what all the conversation was?
Well, so it was a business on the very top of Hopewell Road before you go into Forsyth, and in Fulton County, they allowed the gentleman to operate at Equine Fabrication, and they were supposed to come back like 3 years later, and they never did, and so it wasn't quite legalized. So then when it came back up, then we created the equine,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
to allow it by right in
Yeah, I-
AG1. That's allowed by right in AG1
do
now.
that.
Actually, it's a use permit.
Is it a use permit now?
Yep. Page 8-9, equine garment fabrication. You.
Well, let me see, because I don't, I'm double checking now.
Why are we specific to that type of business?
Being here too long.
Why are we specific to that type of business?
Because it's a type of manufacturing, and so that's just,
Manufacturing.
yeah, even though it's agriculturally related, zoning,
Trying to figure out how to get him
AG1.
into compliance, but it does say it needs, and maybe it was one of those, you gave him a use permit, and that's why you said anymore, you need a use permit. Because it is
See.
manufacturing-like.
That makes sense.
No, it says equine garment under AG1, under uses, equine garment fabrication, provided buildings do not exceed 2,000 square feet in size and outside storage shall comply with subsection 64-49B3. So it's by right, so that's a mistake.
Well, no, because this defines it on page 85 as if it's bigger than that, then you need a use permit.
Oh, well, oh, okay,
So you have some, but I
Now I
think
need
we've
to see if
lost
I
the
have
fact
it.
that if you're smaller than that, it's by right.
Yeah, let's see.
Mhm.
We need to add that. How do-
Oh, it is there, yep. Oh, you're right. It is a use permit when it's 2,001 gross squeak, gross
Go
squeak.
square feet. It's like,
It's pretty good.
Gross feet or more in size. So yes, it is a use permit when it's bigger than that.
Okay.
When it's 2001 or bigger,
Is there any place we say that if it's less than 2001, it's by right?
it is under AG1 zoning district.
But where is that in here? Oh, because this is use permits, okay.
Right.
It's
right,
over
right.
on
Yeah.
permitted uses, okay.
Sorry, I brought it up.
Yeah.
Why we brought that up?
Thanks, Frankie.
Oh, yeah, but this is the use table.
I know, I'm just thinking, I wonder if he saw that there's an approved, allowed use by right with 2,000, less than,
Yeah, I don't want to miss that.
yeah, so let's make a
Check-
note next to
check
the
for
equine
Yep.
for less than,
Because this is kind of a summary of,
yeah,
like, because otherwise there should be, if it's less than 2,000 feet, it's a P.
yeah, right.
P if less than
So you were asking about the.
On
chapter, yes,
85,
other
under
than-
I,
What were
in
you
1 and
asking?
2, there's the
Something in
capital
this?
C for chapter 4.
Mm-hmm. MD.
ND.
Okay, done with 85. 86.
So an 86 FI section capitalized. And J1 chapter capitalized. And at the, under vape shop, the comma preceding principal and principal in quotations not bolded. As well as top of 87 not bold.
At the bottom, the word principal,
Yeah.
cap.
We're on 87 now?
Yeah, are we all, are we done with 86? Are we moving to 87? I'm good with that.
86K1, maybe I just missed it. Just 2 periods.
Yep.
See what I'm talking about?
Yep. 86K.
Where was that one?
Caps.
What was that?
Double period.
86,
Oh,
page
yes, yes,
86,
yes, 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 I see it, I
K1,
see
there's
it.
2
K1.
periods.
Oh,
And then 87, we're missing a bunch of
Get
periods in that
this on
list.
That one,
Yeah.
that'd be helpful.
3, 9, a bunch, a couple.
Did they say the caps on removing on 87?
Yeah, I got that one.
You got?
On 87, under under C2 at the top right, the bolded quotes around automotive specialty station. And then also the very third to the last character on page 87, no bold needed on that either.
Back to her. B2, outside storage of unlicensed and unregistered vehicles is prohibited.
Yep.
If there's any way to get the top of 87 on the previous page, I think that'd be helpful. Kind of confusing.
No.
Reshuffle.
Left hanging. Okay, 88.
Shall not.
Okay. Robin.
Okay.
Under the gasoline station.
Yeah,
I think I brought this up last meeting. The one that we have made specific
on Arnold Mill.
allowances for the new one that's going in
Uh-huh.
are any of those that we said was okay, are they in here? Or was that?
It was a
just
totally
specifically
separate,
For the gasoline station, that particular one?
I mean, we tried to the development standards, we had them comply with it. Like the canopy has to
Right.
be in the back and
Okay, that's what I,
all those things. They couldn't have so many gas pumps.
Pumps.
So yes, we had them comply with this. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on 88?
There's a couple of may nots that maybe should be shall nots. So
Yeah.
E2A, under mix, the garage and may not be visible. And, oh, I lost it.
It's easier to generally say shall. in those
Yeah.
cases. I think technically.
I'll
it's not
just
right.
tell them to go
Shall,
back from
okay.
may to shall, because yeah.
Now,
Okay.
there are some places, I mean, he can't do a global
I know, that's, yeah.
may to shall because some of the, There
Maybe
are-
may.
there are situations where it's used in a different tone and
Correct.
you may do this
Yeah.
is
Right.
different from you shall do this.
Right, right.
But when you're using the not,
Yeah.
it tends to run to the same thing. It was just
Yeah.
the may not be allowed
Yeah.
Right,
sounds like
Right.
we're given permission to do it or not do it.
right.
Okay. Page 89. Anything else? Anybody have anything on page 89?
Mhm.
All right. 90, a lot of rogue bolding.
okay.
Lots of bolding on this one.
Got the rogue.
Yeah. Couple of chapters need capitalizing
Capitalizing,
and sections.
right?
Anybody else? Anything else on that?
There, yeah.
And I guess I'll ask it again, Robin, everything that was discussed in between the times that we've been doing this, everything in there that,
Oh, right. The text
I
amendments
just
we've been
couldn't
working
read.
on, yes.
Yeah.
So far, I mean,
So.
Well, up to
Something else is-
11, so this was created 11/7, so any text amendments we've done since then, he's gonna have to put in.
Okay, that was what I was trying to
So,
get
yeah,
at.
this is a static piece of work from 11/7.
Right, because we had that whole thing where if somebody wanted to change locations on, but that wasn't, that was not on alcohol beverage, that was on,
Oh, right, that was separate, but the actually, next planning commission, we're gonna talk about that. And, okay, so, yeah.
Teaser?
is that like,
Teaser to be sure we show up?
Oh, yeah.
is that like in 2 weeks?
Talking about alcohol related, about the type, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, so it's gonna come up, the 2 items, yes,
In 2 weeks?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so 91, again, a little rogue bolding.
All that half sounds.
Holding.
Everything else? Okay. 92.
92 in B5, usually I don't think, we have not had the convention of semicolons, they've just been a list.
Okay, oh, this,
And then on B5D, the apostrophe in managers is bolded.
tricky little rogue. All right, anything else? All right, 93.
Bolded quotes around inner waste in this third line.
Okay. Then down on solid waste in the last paragraph. Anything else?
Yes, on that, again, not on this, but with all the discussion recently on landfills being demanding to cover and all that, is that something that we should put down on our list of things to look
I mean, I
at?
don't think, I mean,
Closing landfills is pretty regulated by the state.
yeah, but I
Right,
mean, we
okay.
did force them for the one on Arnold
Yeah.
Mill. We had to like play tough ball with
Just gives us
them.
something to
So
cite
we've had
if the
one
state
that
won't
we-
do it.
Right, I mean, there's only one landfill and then they're getting ready to close it in
Right.
sections. And so they were just gonna put a big plastic bag over it. And so we basically pressed them
Okay.
and threatened them and
Good.
they grassed it over and it looks really nice now from
Okay.
the pictures, so.
Page 93, bottom left paragraph. I think just hours of operation are limited to, not limit hours of operation are limited to. H,
Oh, okay.
Limit hours are limited.
Yeah.
J, the next, a little bit further on, vehicles are allowed.
Okay.
Okay. Back to,
94. Yeah, I'm really sad we didn't get to do this in 95-degree heat in this.
I know.
Just thinking, whoever made that suggestion to move this.
Exactly.
Just,
That would have been
just
wonderful.
one comment on use permits in general, and maybe we can add this to the list. If someone has a use permit and then comes in for variances on that same parcel, I think that should come back to the planning commission to review. So if someone has a use permit and then comes back and says, I want some more variances, because normally you would do that concurrently, then I think that use permit or those variances should come back to us for review because there is a use permit on the property. And right,
I
that
get
is
the
not
logic behind that, but I don't know that I don't believe it's written that way. And
Yeah.
we probably
No,
have to
that's what
make,
I'm saying, put it on
yeah.
the list, because I think
Yeah,
it should. And then the other thing that confused me is that the process currently as written, the city council will approve a variance. In other words, oh, you can be closer to a lot line. And then afterwards, the design review board looks at it and says, oh, I don't think it should be there. But now the variance has already been granted. So I think that whole treatment.
That's really a zoning you're talking about the zoning modification.
Yeah, but I think that whole,
And the concurrent
I think we
variance
should
with
put on our list that when you're dealing with use permits, that
Or it could be
there's
a
an
zoning.
order to thing, one, it should come back to us because there was a use permit for review. And secondly, we need to look at the order things are done in, because I think the site should be reviewed before a setback variance is granted, not the other way around.
So she's speaking to the modification process. So the logic is when either a use permit or rezoning, although we don't have a lot of rezonings, but in our case, it's more use permits. The use permit is granted, and they may even have some concurrent variances, and then they want to go back and they want to modify the site plan. And oh, by the way, while I'm modifying the site plan, I need some more concurrent variances. And what she's saying is because that original use permit went before a planning commission through that process, the thought is to bring it back through to planning commission because they're modifying the use permit and adding some variances. Instead of, because now modifications are under the appeals section of the code, and it's
so who gets
just
it?
goes straight to city council.
Oh. Okay.
I just think because it gives us, because we went
Looked
through
at
a
it.
great detail on perhaps on the original use permit to say, oh, we wanted it here and there, and now you're adding more variances.
And we
Well,
can look at that. Yeah, I think that's been an argument for a while, so that's
Okay.
fine. I mean, I would say about the building, in staff's defense, we asked them not to go to, they just wanted a building permit review for architecture, for an eventual permit. And they wanted a courtesy review, and we asked them not to go yet, and they insisted on it. So the DRB was only looking at the architecture, not looking at, okay, what is it in the right position or not?
And that was one of those that I think because there were variances about the location of the building, it should have been reviewed before city council heard the variance. Because, if the design review board says, no, you need to move it 3 feet to the left, and then city council already said, no, you can have it 3 feet to the right. It's just. the
Yeah, I mean,
timing.
I get it. No, I know. I understand.
Chicken and, it was seeking a better output and better review and not putting that onus to understand all that very detailed stuff as the first review being after staff being city council.
Right.
Okay. So. Now, Article 9, looks like we've got, what, 7 pages of comments from the, I think we have some work to do on
They formally withdrew it.
Article 9. Is that something we want to tackle this evening? Yes.
I'm trying to think I did read 9 rather thoroughly. And my major issues with 9 were formatting. Like the pages were breaking in weird places, but I didn't have any, that I found a typo. I found one maybe rogue thing, but I didn't have, literally, I didn't have a lot, and I did read it all. So I don't know if you guys want to go
Well,
through it, because it won't take that long, and then we don't have to do it next time.
My concern is with 7 pages.
Oh, but they had 7
7
pages.
A lot of them are typo type things.
A lot of, I
Yeah,
have that happened to be mine, and I have 2 pages of things, which,
Oh, you do? Okay.
yeah, but most of, could have been corrected in between time, so,
Oh, because you did 9 before.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like
You did such a good job, I didn't find anything.
I feel like we'd be a little fresher to do it. I know I hate putting things off, but I did say that it would take 2 good sessions for Article 8. So,
Yeah.
I know, like I said, the next time we just have 2 text amendments and they're not super big. So,
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
I
It's
wanted
good
to
to
make
finish
sure.
on one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you got these other, kind of like that shall thing, but make me read. Get all these other ones in the alcohol. Okay.
Okay.
But she said it was, and it's time, yeah.
What? What do you
The reason why I'm stepping down.
gonna do?
Pardon?
No, I think it's right.
I didn't get that one. Shall not.
Oh.
And was there one the page
Does
before?
that need to? Option right?
See right here?
I think that should be shall not.
That's what.
I mean, I
we
think you
changed
should
it.
check all of them, because look right here.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot
He
of
just needs to
them.
check
Yeah.
all, he just
Yeah.
needs to go through and check
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah,
They all need.
okay. But anything with the alcohol and then on 85, I, next page,
Have a good.
at the top left,
the week.
I.